When news broke of his demise on Thursday, I'm talking about former President Jerry John Rawlings. We understand he passed on at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and also he was transferred there from on Wednesday from a different facility, and he buried his mother in October 2020, and almost a month afterwards we lost him as well. Well, City News' Umaru Sanda Amadou was at his residence here in Accra, and he brought in this report.
Let me speak to a former deputy minister in the NDC administration, also served as a member of parliament, Honorable Rickett Hagan. You're one of the topmost politicians we are seeing here today. As a young politician, what did Rawlings mean to you?
He stood for discipline. He was against corruption, and he wanted an equitable society and all that, which he preached throughout his life. When I came into politics and came into government, became a member of parliament, that's when I started having a close relationship with him.
Well, like we all saw on the news, COVID related. He's been tired. It was a lot of pressure that we all went through. A lot of us.
Family members of the late Rawlings, though, are locked up in that house where we are told there's a meeting happening. No communication has been given to us by any member of the Rawlingses as yet. Now, lots of senior members of the NDC have been coming in, and so are members of the NPP and even members of the government, because he is a statesman. Indeed, the man who represents the NPP in this constituency, the parliamentary candidate, has also just come here. Did you have to suspend your campaign to come in here? How did you hear this news?
Yes, we just left the CMB market, campaigning there. And then we also went to Adabraka Central Market, Central Mosque area, where we are having a health screening and national health renewal. And then somebody whispered in my ears that JJ is gone. And so when we came out of the house, I told my team that we cannot continue with the campaign again. We need to get closer to the Rawlings family and express our condolences and our sadness at the turn of events. We are very disappointed by the turn of events, and we came here to show our respects to a great statesman, a man whose life and personality and ideas has informed our Fourth Republic.
So that's Prince Deborah, the NPP parliamentary candidate for Korle Klottey constituency. You worked with Rawlings?
Yes, I did.
As a what?
First, I worked under him as a district coordinator and organizing assistant for PDCs and WDCs and then CDRs. Then later on, I became a member of parliament for New Jabe North. But I was the first MP for New Jabe North.
Do you remember the first time you met Rawlings, what the circumstances were?
Well, the first time I met him was when I met him at the State House. There was a conference of PDCs and WDCs, and he came to address us at the State House. That was way back in the 80s. That was the first time. That subsequently, when I became a member of parliament, we started having series of meetings with him.
And you served as his minister? And
then later on, I served as a deputy minister. He appointed me as a deputy minister for health.
Okay.
And later on, he made me the substantive minister for health.
Okay.
And the Ashanti regional minister.
What did Rawlings mean to you as a young person at the time in politics?
For me, Rawlings was an institution for me. He stood for so many things. He showed leadership, he showed integrity, and he showed compassion. That every leader must make sure that apart from the fact that you are motivating and inspiring people to achieve set goals and targets, you must show compassion.
The greatest achievement of Jerry John Rawlings as a revolutionary is the promise of power to the people, which is Kokomoti power. Okay. He has given it. He has led all the group and they have given it. He has gathered it. He has not twisted it or changed it to a third term like the Ivory Coast are doing when they are going to war. So whatever it is, whatever wrongs or good or whatever you can just present my judge, the greatest achievement is the Constitution.
What would Rawlings' absence mean to the progress of this country? Will it affect our
He
progress
is
in
a
any?
living legend, and what he has left is the Constitution. Therefore, when we continue defending the Constitution, and then if we need to amend, we use the proper means through referenda to amend as we move on, then we'll be living we'll be protecting his legacy and the legacy of those people who died, including the Supreme Military Council people who were also shot. It's also their legacy.
Okay.
People have died for it, and then we must protect it.
Thank you for speaking to us. That's Alfred Agbeshi Woyome, who's come here also to mourn with the Rawlingses. Let's speak to a few more members of the NDC. Jifa Akwativo worked as Deputy Minister for Transportation in the last NDC administration from the Volta region, the home region of Jerry John Rawlings.
It never dawned on us that he will even, I don't know. You know, last year when my husband died, and I came to inform Papa J, I came with my children and some family members to inform him. So he asked me how old was my husband, and I said, 73. Papa J said, hey, anytime somebody dies and the person is close to his age, he gets worried. Then he burst into laughter. He said something in Ewe, then he laughed. And he said, when people above 80 something are gone. So we all just laughed, not knowing it's going to happen the way he was worried to die at this age. I mean...
Right, and following his death, President Akufo-Addo declared a national week of mourning in his honor and also directed that all national flags fly at half-mast since that. So let's look at a meeting the president had with the family of the late former President Rawlings at the Jubilee House.
The delegation led by Colonel retired Joshua Abotri was at the Jubilee House to officially inform President Akufo-Addo of the passing of former President Jerry John Rawlings. Spokesperson for the family, Johnny Blagoji, told President Akufo-Addo that the family heard of his passing on Thursday morning after a short illness.
The former President Jerry John Rawlings fell sick and was hospitalized. A lot of efforts were made. I know the president was in touch with his brother. Little did we know that former president will leave us. So we've come here formally to inform the president and the entire government that this is what has happened. It is true. Jerry John Rawlings is no more. And we deem it appropriate to come and inform you officially.
President Akufo-Addo says the country is devastated following the passing of Mr. Rawlings. He says he will greatly remember a man he called a friend.
I was given this information this morning when I arrived at the office. And I find it hard up to now to really incorporate, assimilate the information. There's a man of great vitality, dynamism and energy. It's very difficult to conceive of him as a dead body lying in a morgue. But then, I think one of the things that all of us have got to get used to is that the Almighty has His own plans for each one of us. And improbable as some things may be, nevertheless they happen. It's a moment for reflection and for continuing to believe in His purpose, that He has a purpose for each one of us. And as it appears, former president's work here on earth has come to an end.
The president had earlier in the day issued a statement directing that the country's flags fly at half-mast in honor of the late president. He also declared 7 days of national mourning.
All right. Well, the leadership of the opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, on Friday commiserated with family of the party's founder and former president, Jerry John Rawlings, led by its flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama. The party also discussed how they can, in collaboration with governments, give their founder a befitting burial. Here's a report by my colleague, Kujo Ajiman.
The NDC flag bearer, who had to suspend his campaign tour in the Ashanti region, on Friday met members of the party's National Executive Committee. The meeting was to discuss how the party could partner the state to give its founder a befitting burial.
I decided that we meet as a political committee, first to get an update on the sad events of yesterday, and secondly to discuss how the party, can interface with the state and the family in order that we give a bit fitting send-off to former President Jerry Rawlings.
The leadership of the NDC, led by former President John Mahama, after the meeting on Friday, called on the family of the late president at his rich residence in Accra. The NDC leader expressed the condolences of the party to Mrs. Nana Konedu Ajiman Rawlings, the children, and the entire family.
The next thing was for us to organize and come and pay our respects and our condolences and to assure the family that the party is just as bereaved as you are, and that we stand in readiness to play whatever role we have to play to give our founder a befitting farewell. But over and beyond, it is the positivity of what he stood for, and that he has its rightful place in the history of Ghana, that we must fight for as a party to make sure that there's no revisionism about what his rightful place in Ghana's history is. And so we'll stand ready and know what the arrangements are.
Meanwhile, the party says it has been forced to open a book of condolence for its founder and former President Jerry John Rawlings. General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, explained why.
We've been to the residence of the family to offer our condolences. The family, by which I mean the maternal family from Anglo, was represented, and the immediate nucleus family was represented. President Mahama was there in the company of the high hierarchy of the party. And we were told that a book of condolence has been opened at the International Conference Center. So they wish we all go there to sign. By the time we reached there, the state officials are taking control and locked up the International Conference Center, taking the book of condolence away, and said that they have been directed by the state to prevent President Mahama from signing. They have taken the book away, and that it is only Monday that they will bring the book back.
All right, so those were the developments following the demise of former President Rawlings. With me in the studio this morning is the Member of Parliament for 2nd D, Andrew Ejapa Mesa, and private legal practitioner Martin Pebu. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We'll soon be joined by the former MP for North Dai, George Law, and also Franklin Kujo will be joining us via Zoom as always. Let's begin by talking about the former President Rawlings. Honorable Mesa, where were you when the news broke?
Well, let me say good morning to my very good friend Martin. We haven't met in a while, to your good self and all our cherished viewers. I was actually on the MPP youth wing activity that had been dubbed Boot on the Ground.
Okay,
that morning at the 2nd D Lorry Park, together with some youth wing members of our party doing voter contact engagement, giving out our ballot paper samples, doing voter education. When I heard, in fact, my wife sent me a text message that JJ is gone. Then I called her and said, what do you mean by JJ is gone? Then she told me that, well, it's breaking news. She just heard it on Joy FM. Then immediately some other people who are with me also started mentioning it, that at the Rawlings, look, believe me, till now I still don't believe that His Excellency the former president is dead. I just can't bring myself to accept the fact of his passing, albeit all the evidence that clearly abounds. His Excellency the President announcement, the visit by his immediate family to the Jubilee House, the President visiting Excellency Jerry John Rawlings yesterday morning. I've seen all the clips, indeed, the former President Mahama. His announcement at Obuasi that he was suspending his campaign. I saw that clip as well. Thanks to social media. The news is in our face every day. But the Rawlings that I knew growing up, because when he burst on the scene in 1979, I was 6. And so, yes, I was young, but I knew what was happening. I knew that there was a coup d'etat. I knew about the 15 May failed coup, subsequent trial that he was put through, the 6th March, June uprising, his handing over to civilian government, is best once again onto the scene in December of 1981. And of course, subsequently when I went to university, I studied political science. That's my first degree. So I read extensively about the Rawlings factor in our body politic. I have my own issues with respect to some of the atrocities that were associated with his coming onto the scene, because I live in secondary European town, close to the naval base, and obviously in the heat of the revolution, my own father had to, because he was a lawyer at that time, and you know, many prominent people in our society were invited or arrested, if you like, for one reason or the other. So for days, we didn't know where he was. You know, apparently he had taken solace in her own mother's residence, and she had died, so the place was empty. Nobody was living there at the time. So it was a traumatic period. But over the years, I guess that particularly when we entered the Fourth Republic, and he shed his military uniform and became a civilian president. Yes, still difficulties with his administration, but of course, I guess that he conducted himself in a manner that began to endear him to a lot more people. Post his presidency, I guess that he, by and large, of course, the Kufuor era was different. The Mills era obviously was also different. The Mahama era was also different in many ways. The Akufo-Addo era has also been different, because if you read about the relationship, like the president himself said, that they had a tempestuous relationship for many years, because Excellency the President himself, and human rights advocate, you know, democratic to the core, the fight against military rule, he was one of the people who were at the center of those activities. So for him, clearly he's impacted our body politic for the better part of 40 years. And so he assumed the larger-than-life character. You know, and I did not know him personally, but I had occasion to attend naming ceremony at his house in Ridge, and he was all over the place. You know, his humanity was real. You know, his sense of humor was clearly manifested, and it made one wonder whether this is the man that presided over the affairs of the country, since the military era, and the kind of perception or the experiences that people had with his governance, and subsequently when he became a civilian president. I guess that God knows best. He's paid his dues. Hate him or like him, he was the leader of this country for 19 solid years. Many development projects that we see around was his signature.
Yeah, we'll be getting into some of the things he did.
So for me, of course, I've come to know his daughters, two of them, Yasantua and Zinato, because I'm part of your colleague. And so I commiserate with the family. I really think that whatever, and of course, His Excellency the President has indicated, his role in history will be etched in stone. Of course, his own party people vilified him, and today they're claiming to be the ones who love him more, to the point that if you listen to the comments that is coming up on social media, even in death, Jerry John Rawlings is evoking a lot of controversy amongst followers and perceived non-followers alike. And I guess that in the coming days, I would rather urge that, pettiness is shout. I mean, people, I read Nana Sewa Champion's post. I knew her in Lagos as well.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Pretty touching. Of course, people have all sorts of experiences that would be rolled out at this time that he's passed. But I guess that at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have faults. So we should be gracious to let bygones be bygones and, as it were, give him the due recognition and the farewell that he deserves as a former head of state and president of our country.
All right. You can join the conversation. Our WhatsApp number is 0549 986 996. 0549 986 996. Mr. Pebu, how did the news of the former president's demise come to you?
Let's say I wasn't too much in shock because on Monday I'd heard he was unwell. And they had said he was critically he was critically ill. So I'm sure from the way the brain works, so I was like, hey, this thing, like how we talk informally. Oh Charlie, So I mean, I had the opportunity to express concern privately, and that also works on the mind. So when the news came on Thursday, it didn't give me too much of a shock because of what I had heard earlier. So that's how it is. It's sad. It's sad that this great man is gone. But such is life. Very fragile. You are here today and then gone tomorrow. So it happens.
There have been varied descriptions of who he was. Some say he was a saint. Some say he was a sinner. People call him man of the people, Junior Jesus, the founder of the NDC. For you, who was Rawlings?
Abena, that's a very difficult question. Very difficult because, because of our cultural context that when people are mourning, you only say good things about dead people. I'm not in a position to go in that direction because I can't talk about the good without the bad. So I think maybe I would yield my time on this. I mean, so that we mourn with the family. Okay, yes, we mourn with the family.
But at least we can talk about his achievements and the things he did. The president has said his contribution to the country's fourth democracy will be etched in stone. They talk about handing over power when former President Kufuor won the 2000 election, among other things. So maybe we can premise our conversation on that score and things around that line.
No, you see, we'll come back to the same thing. Since Honorable is here, we should yield, because you know those ones, the way people are saying them in one line, you know, history wasn't that way. They were all struggles. All those things you mentioned, they were not straight. There were a lot of struggles. So, and as I said, because we are mourning, in trying to expatiate, I mean, go and say some words that don't sound palatable. So, Charlie, on matters like this, it's better to just shut up and say that we are mourning, you know.
We just mourn.
Yes.
Honorable Mesa. But let me welcome the Honorable George Low, a former MP for Norda. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
We are talking about former President Rawlings. We'll come to you in a bit, but Honorable Mesa, on his achievements or what he will be remembered for.
You see, I've heard the NDC make the argument that one of the things that clearly is his legacy, according to them, is the fact that he handed over power when he lost the election. And surprising.
Has it been just the NDC saying that?
But of course, he didn't have a choice. He had finished his term of 2 4-year terms. And so, really, was he going to abandon the constitutional process that had been initiated since 7 January 2013, for which he had stood for and won 2 elections, and say, no, I'm not going to hand over? Because the good people of this country have spoken. Right through the processes leading up to the formulation of the Constitution, that multi-party democracy was what we want to be the system that administers our governance. And so the talk also even extends to the fact that he agreed to return this country to democracy. The forces that clearly were on scene was there. Okay, yes, of course, he was the head of state at the time, so you can give him the credit all you want. But like I said right from the very outset, the negatives that Martin doesn't want to talk about, I can relate in a sense with that position. Because I suppose that there will be many more days, you know, ahead of us to really deal with the negatives and the positives. But to the extent that we are mourning with this family, I think that it will be insensitive, consistent with our culture, to speak ill about him. But it's obvious, and history, like he said, is not simple, straightforward, one line. There were huge issues with his governance. Human rights record, extrajudicial killings.
So, Honorable, it's okay.
No, I'll go too deep. I'm just highlighting. But, of course, his positive footprints are also visible.
Yeah, I asked about the positives.
Infrastructure, education, even though I disagree with the introduction of this SHS system as opposed to the old one that I had the benefit of attending. I guess that, you know, in all fronts, health infrastructure, if you like, schools, like every government will do, he did his bit. And so I guess that's important that we celebrate him. George, even though when he was making statements against the government that he bettered, the party that, even though the Constitution says clearly that no one individual can found a political party, they have disregarded that provision and made him founder of their party. They vilified him at length, said all sorts of things about him. References were made to him about the water god. People ought to take steps to move on and all that. Babies with sharp teeth were unleashed on him. said all manner of unprintable things because he was criticizing his own party in government for things that he deemed improper. And so today they say it's their own. And they even are challenging the authority of His Excellency the President in issuing an announcement and indicating that, as is deserved, he will be given a full state burial. My own father, who only was an ambassador, he died in 1985 under Rawlings' era. He gave him a full state burial in Secondary. So it's not in doubt at all about the clear benefits that attaches to a certain office.
But the NDC is not challenging the state burial.
Oh, you don't follow social media, eh?
I don't follow posts on social media. I follow.
They've opened the business book as a book of condolence in his honor. You saw the one that Mr. Mahama signed.
Yeah.
Business book. They couldn't even procure a proper.
Have you seen the full book?
But what?
Have you seen the cover of the book?
Do I have to see the cover?
Have you seen it?
I've seen the text.
So have you seen the book in itself?
Please.
Or just the picture on social media?
I've seen the sheet on which Mr. Mahama wrote. It's not a business book. That is put at the reception when you come, you write your name, the person you are coming to look for, the purpose, and then the time and the signature. You haven't seen it. I'm asking you, you haven't seen it. Or that one is Photoshop.
See, have you seen the book in itself?
Do I have to see the book?
No. This is social media we are talking about.
I'm saying that they themselves have shared it on their official platforms. It's there in black and white. Why you haven't seen it? Let me pull it and show it to you. Because I've seen it. I'm sure George himself has seen it. And when I get a chance again, I pull it from my recent album and show it to you. So clearly. But they can choose to do whatever it is that they want to do. Former President Rawlings is a state asset.
I don't think they are contesting the issue of the state burial.
Their government, depending on the time that the family elects for his funeral ride.
Martin affectionately called Olienu by our colleagues. You know, you were mates.
And what is your nickname?
Yeah, everybody calls me Dollar.
Dollar. So now it's leveled down.
Yes.
We are talking about former President Rawlings. I know there are a number of things you want to respond to, but some people say they are still in denial. They cannot believe that he's gone. Where do you stand in this tragic story we are all dealing with?
Abena, thank you very much. It's been very difficult for the past few days. And, yes, to some extent, even though all the events are unfolding, you know, before our very eyes, it is still kind of, you can still be in a little state of denial, hoping that tomorrow morning you wake up with an announcement that it was all a big prank, and that vintage Rawlings is up and kicking. But it will be as it may, looking at all the events that unfolded, I'm sure that we would have no choice than to accept that the great one has departed us. I find it very difficult talking about Mr. Rawlings because I've had various connections with him at the various facets of his political life, his adult life. I'd known Rawlings possibly at the age of 5.
Wow.
And I used to take a special liking to him because of his color. You were children growing up, Bruni, and
I'm sure you are not alone.
Yeah, and he was in occasionally in military uniform. For me, it was very phenomenal. He used to hang around an uncle of mine who was then in government, in the Champon government. And so from that level, I used to admire him from a distance. One thing that struck me from the very onset was that he never liked to mix. When they came as a group, he always kind of stood aside, quiet. And so I remember very well as a class 2 kid, when out of the blue my daddy rushed to pick me up from St. Michael's International School then at Osu. There was tough time, I didn't understand a thing. Only to realize that, oh, they said there was a coup d'etat. That was the first time I was hearing a coup. That was May 15th. And then you begin to follow subsequently all that. All the way through his military administration, and of course the Fourth Republic. At that time then I was of majority, and therefore I could really appreciate the things that went on. I mean, for me, there are always two sides. People may be skeptical about saying that, but Jerry Rawlings was a love and hate person. You would love him for some of the very phenomenal things that done. There is not everybody who would love him. There are times when you reflect and say, if he had done things differently, what kind of legacy, what a legacy he would have left. Even though, even at this level, we are talking about legacies that he has left. But if things had turned out totally different, I'm sure that he possibly would have been a hero that would never replace. Why am I saying that? I grew up as a child in cantonments across Bema Villas. We lived in the midst of colonels and generals, some of whom had been shot. You know, across there was General Utuka, General Feli. I lived on the same line with General Kote and things like that. So, growing up, you had a certain that their parents had been. You were playing with kids whose parents had just been shot, and we woke up one day and about 4, 5, 6 of our children had been gone. So those were the excesses of the revolution. But well, as he kept on explaining, those were things that were beyond his control. But taking it forward, I think Rawlings has been a phenomenal leader of this country. As a military leader, he sought to bring this country together. In fact, if you did some political economy of this country, you would find that it was during his time that he transformed the economy, and we had some of the very good indices, economic indices of this country in terms of growth. We had several programs that he sought to do, PAMSCAT and its attendant programs. So yes, there are a lot of positive from that point on. Well, people would have said that it wasn't all rosy, yes, but he was building a nation and it doesn't come easy. But he gave us the most important legacy, the Fourth Republic. As John Dramani Mahama would put it, he was a midwife of the Fourth Republic. Look, what I admired about Jerry Rawlings at the time, and contrary to what my friend Bobo wants us to believe, Jerry Rawlings had every opportunity to decide that we were not going to go democracy. Nobody should take that away from me. Look,
even
smaller
in the Constitution,
smaller countries were, listen, smaller countries like Togo and others, their presidents were doing it, other countries were doing it. In actual fact, that we sit, Ivory Coast has done it.
Yeah.
So please, let nobody delude himself by thinking that Jerry didn't have the opportunity to say that I want to perpetuate my rule. But you see, this was a man who even said that I do not believe in the democracy. He said it several times. That look, this democracy people are talking about is not something I really believe in. But for the fact that the people say they want it, I am prepared to give them what they want. That is the mark of a good leader. And that is the greatest legacy he has sent. Today, all of us are seated here, talking the way we are talking because of Jerry Rawlings. If he hadn't given us that opportunity, we never know where we would have been today. So for me, I am sad that he has passed on, because I believe that if he continued to live, maybe there are many more things that would have heard from him. Because from the direction we are going, where today journalists cannot cover stories dispassionately, the kind of things that are happening in this country, that is retrogressing the progress that we've made in the Fourth Republic. It is sad that the architect of that great infrastructure has had to bow out at this stage. But believe you me, Jerry Rawlings will go down in history as one of the greatest. Nobody can take that one. As for the other things that my brother is saying about NDC, and Look, for me, nothing matters. What matters is that the NDC, which Jerry Rawlings founded with other people, and let me clarify what he's talking about. Yes, the law said no one person can form a political party. So we have a founder and founding fathers, or founding members of the party. So yes, we are saying that Jerry Rawlings is our primus inter pares when it comes to the formation of the NDC. And nobody will take that away from us. As a party, we are determined to give him a memorable send-off that he will be proud of and his family will be happy with.
Okay.
We believe and know that per our national architecture, the state will take the lead. We are not going to fight the state on any ground.
You're not fighting the state?
No, at all.
Yesterday, the General Secretary said the government wants to hijack the funeral.
Yes. That doesn't mean that we are fighting the state. We are pointing out the things the state is doing that we don't like. It is not a fight. We are only saying that the state should come clear. We have a convention of how state burials are done. And for Jerry Rawlings, we were saying that it surprised us that in expressing condolences, the NDC which he founded with over 5, 6, 7 million members was not mentioned. If it was an oversight,
you wanted the president to mention the NDC.
Of course, send yes condolences to the party, because we are the number one, apart from the family, we are the number one chief mourners of this. Jerry Rawlings was NDC till the last breath. He had never at any point inside said he is denouncing his membership of this party. He continued to be our founder. That's what we are talking about.
So it's about the president not extending condolences to the NDC.
Yes, it is like if your chief touch wood, your chief passes away, and people are. You think that the traditional area or the traditional council does not deserve mention, that the condolence should not go to the traditional council also. I mean, Abena, let's face things. You see, these things we can drag them all we like, but good is good. Let's put the right things at the right place for posterity.
Isn't it too
our
early?
Children, listen, our children must learn. This is a president who has issued a national statement. Tomorrow, that statement will be shelved in a file for somebody to come and read. Let's send the right signals that rather than divide us further, I believe that Jerry Rawlings would have loved his demise to unite us as a nation. The direction which the state is going, we believe that they must stop in their tracks and backtrack. Let's sit down and all of us give our great founder a befitting burial.
Has the NDC made any attempts to reach government since this happened?
Abena, there is a process.
Okay, is the NDC following that process?
Yes, that is why, you see, people are saying all sorts of things. Yesterday I was going to call Umaru and tell him that, hey, be very careful. Saying that up to 9 NDC hasn't issued a statement. I said, Umaru, you see, NDC is an organization. We had our leader, our flag bearer, who was on the field in Obuasi when the thing happened. He quickly decided that cancel all engagements and I'm coming to Accra. When he comes to Accra, he must be debriefed. You understand? And that is exactly what he did. He convened a political committee meeting. After the meeting, they've gone to the family to sit and dialogue, and also to go and wish them condolences, extend their condolences to them. Then there will be other steps. Now NDC may now either appoint somebody to join the state planning committee or something, and then we are on the same page. Then we are going.
Okay.
But we are saying that as a political party, we will also have our funeral.
Okay.
Our own way of honoring Jerry Rawlings. We started this morning in Ketu South. There has been a walk.
Okay. So after the state funeral, there will be an NDC funeral.
No, it's not about after the state funeral. We are saying that we are doing it pari passu each other. So we are saying that we are starting on Sunday, where we are going to have a video to remember him. Maybe poetry recitals, videos, and things. That is, we are kickstarting a nationwide, because the party is in every constituency, in every branch. He was our father, and we have a right to celebrate him in our own way. We did the same thing for former President Mills. So it's not new. President Mills, every district had a funeral.
But at that time, your party was in power.
It doesn't make any difference. He had a state burial, but I'm saying that beyond the state burial, the party in every district had a kind of a remembrance service and things like that.
So that's what's going to happen.
We'll do something similar for former President Rawlings. And for me, it doesn't take anything away. We are only saying that the world is watching.
Okay.
We must all be on the same page.
Is the NDC using a visitor's book at the headquarters as a book of condolence?
Listen, I haven't been to the party headquarters to see the book.
Okay.
And I don't even care if it was an exercise book. It is the thoughts expressed by the flag bearer that matters.
Okay.
You see, this form of a substance is needless.
Okay.
Whatever book we choose to use is none of the MPP's business.
Okay.
It's none of the MPP's business. We will use the book that we want to use, and they don't determine for us the book we want to use.
That is the thoughts that matters.
For us, it is the expression of the flag bearer's thoughts in the book that we should concern. What did Anado write in the national one? Nobody could even read.
Oh.
Nobody could even read.
It's been read.
It's been read.
Some people have been able to read.
No, nobody has been able to read.
Does it really matter?
It does, because then he didn't say anything.
He didn't say anything.
If nobody can understand and read what you have said,
he said something.
But John Mahama, we were able to read clearly. So please, let's not. I just really don't want us to take it to the petty level. This is a serious national catastrophe that has hit us. Our one of our greatest is gone. I believe that we should stop the pettiness, cut it out, and focus on how to. You see, and it's an opportunity for us. Jerry Rawlings is liked internationally, locally and internationally. And so this is also an opportunity for us to even go in discussing what new monument we put for tourists to come and watch. You understand? So that our history will be richer. That is what we should be talking about. So I am appalled that we are getting petty about which book is somebody writing in. Who? Come on.
Honorable Mesa, he thinks it doesn't matter. It's the thoughts behind it.
They can use any paper that they want, including tissue paper, if that's what he's saying. It's not for nothing that when people pass, we open a book of condolence for well wishers to express their wishes. And so if you think that it is dignifying, it is reverence to write your founder's best wishes about your founder in a visitor's book, it's fine by me. But you see,
but I can't understand this one, Abena. When you travel outside, let's assume, granted, I'll grant you that there was a visitor.
Who says I'm arguing with you?
When you go to international forums and things like that, and you visit an organization, what do they give you?
At the entrance?
No. What do they give you if they want you to write, comment, and leave? What do they give you?
They give you a book, a visitor's book.
Thank you. And in those visitor's books, you express your thoughts about the country, the personality of who. So this thing is needless, please.
He says he's not arguing it. He says he's not arguing with you over it.
These things and stop
okay, he says he's not arguing over it.
When I saw it yesterday on social media, I was shocked that you can write best wishes about your founder in a visitor's book, but it's fine, it's your choice. I'm not arguing with you. I'm expressing my surprise at the mode and manner with which the NDC, if they feel that they ought to open a parallel book of condolence for the former president of our republic, that they should not use that kind of book for that purpose. That's all.
Okay.
But that's just
it's fine. I think we should move on beyond this book matter.
It's interesting how they say that they would have wished that the death of the former president will unify us. You heard him. But in another breath, they as NDC would give him a befitting farewell. How is the two consistent?
Very consistent.
How?
Very. If you want an explanation, I can give
you want an NDC funeral. And you see, it shouldn't surprise you why they would wish that they would have an NDC funeral.
They didn't say they will not partake in the state's one.
But they don't have a choice in the matter. You think they have a choice? You think they have a choice? The NDC hasn't got a choice in the former president being given a state burial. They don't. Well. So they would attend. But you heard him. That they will hold their own. What does it tell you? It's politics. Absolutely. But otherwise, what's the point? If a former president has passed and the state is organizing a funeral for him, yes, if the state protocol and the funeral planning committee, you nominate a person through the family or whatever, then there's one funeral. But you want to hold an NDC funeral because you and I know we work in this game together. You think that it's 3 weeks to an election, you don't even know when the funeral is going to be held. So already you started holding vigils from tomorrow. They think they can generate some political capital out of the death of the man. That is why.
To what end?
I don't know. That is why their general secretary is telling you that because he's passed under the reign of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa, the NPP or government is seeking to hijack the funeral. But if you want a unifying moment out of the death of the former president, regardless of which political party that he comes from, would you be making those comments? Would you?
Oh, come on.
See, these guys, they see nothing but politics. And we will discuss the other subject matters.
Honorable, is that what is happening?
Isn't it funny who is talking?
Oh,
listen. Abena, if your father has passed, and because he is a statesman, so they are giving a state funeral. You think that after the state funeral, then it's finished? That the family, people have no right to say that we will have our own family funeral. You are saying that even the church to which it belongs cannot say that we would have a memorial service or Thanksgiving service the week after. And you think that, what kind of joke is this? That because the state wants to give former President Rawlings a state funeral, so the organization to which he belongs has no right to hold a vigil in his memory. This is, mind-boggling. You see, when you are crowded by political lenses, this is what you see. And it is not new. Jerry Rawlings will not be the first person to receive that kind of. Yeah, many people get state funerals in this country. But if after that, the family sets another date, and in his hometown or somewhere, they hold a little funeral. Sometimes the body, look, vintage example. When Mr. Rawlings' mother passed, we had a funeral for her, technically like a state funeral, at the State House, isn't it? At the forecourt of the State House. But when we took her to her hometown, what happened? Didn't we have another set of funeral before the burial? So what is he talking about?
Okay.
So if I belong to an association and the association wants to honor me, what is wrong with it? This is child.
All right. This is a big issue on 97.3 City FM. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. I'm here with the Honorable Judge Lofo Manodai MP, Honorable Andrew Nessa, second DMP, and also Martin Pebwe, private legal practitioner. We'll be back after this break with more. Don't go away. Okay, welcome back to The Big Issue on City FM and City TV now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've been reflecting on the life of former President Rawlings and some matters arising from his passing and the government's plan for a state burial, among other things. Honorable Low, I want to hear from you on the NDC and how the party is taking this news.
Well, as you would have noticed, the news hit the party very hard. Very, very, very hard because as founder, there were many things that there was a lot of guidance that we expected from him, even in this very difficult campaigning period. And we had people who were in constant contact with him. And so we are going to lose some very sound counsel as time goes on, as a party. Of course, he was on many occasions the rallying point of the party, as you have known. And that at every state function that we organize, or every public function that we organize, and he showed up, you could see that he was a force that galvanized our base together, you know. And it's interesting that people don't even understand how deeply Rawlings permeated the very fabric of the National Democratic Congress. From where I sit, if you were a regional executive like I am, and of course a former MP, you received, anytime Rawlings spoke, you received a lot of calls. Hey, the old man, what did he mean by what he said? What did he say? So what does he mean for the party? You know? So he was very influential, and we'll miss that kind of influence. Those of us from the Volta region would even experience it even more. Because we had come to a stage where, even though he was a national figure, he was also a kind of a regional statesman for us. So whenever there was an issue, we wanted to hear his side of the story. Recently, when this whole Western Togoland thing came up, people would call and say, Charlie, we think that we need to go and consult the old man and find out what exactly. Because he was also a person who had information. Look, his network was unparalleled. So every day he got his briefings from all sorts of places. And so he was very much in touch with the things that were happening. He was a great guy to the extent that we were lucky to have a father who looked us in the face and told us a few truths. Sometimes he hurt. Sometimes people will call and say,
uncomfortable truths.
Yes, uncomfortable truths. But that was Jerry Rawlings. Phenomenal guy. Transformed from... And in all of this, he respected the base of the party. And also some very senior people in the party. He respected their counsel, and he always wanted them around him. He had his faults, he's human, you know. But we believe that in the main, he had a positive influence on the NDC. We will miss him a lot. And at the moment, I can assure you that across the length and breadth of the country, to the polling stations, our hearts are broken. We only pray to God that He gives us enough strength. And we believe that for some of us, the best legacy or the best thank you we can give him is to go out there and work very hard and restore NDC into the realms of governance in the country. Basically, that is, for the NDC, yes, we are sad. We are in a state of mourning.
Mr. Pewa, I know you stayed away from a greater part of our conversation, but from where you sit, an NDC without Rawlings, it might be a bit too early, but what do you see from where the party has come from? He, Mills, Mahama, now the party is in opposition trying to return to the reins of power and other things.
Basically, yes, initially, it's certainly a big blow, a huge one at that. But things in the nature of human beings, naturally, they will find an antidote to the big vacuum that's been created, this big loss. So I'm expecting that going into the future, eventually NDC will be fine with our team, though it's such a big loss currently. Okay, yes, that's it. It's always been, if you look at history, yes, sometimes a leader dies, you think that's the end of the organization. But no, somebody rises from nowhere to galvanize the group, and I mean, they get on. So looking at history, I don't think there's a death knell to the NDC party, no. In actual fact, there have even been occasions where the General Secretary, Esidin Ketia, had referred to, was it the 2012 elections or so, he said they didn't really give him a prominent role to play, and they still won.
Yeah.
They still won, right? Yeah, so they've been saying, and also generally, you'll see that with the increase in education, more people becoming more literate and economic times getting better for us, I think his influence, his following had appeared to dwindle a bit, you know, especially looking at it as a child, like Honorable referred to. Those days when he was coming, you would all be asked to line up the streets, all those. But you see, I'm looking at it, by the time I got to university, so you see that you're also now trying to make a living for yourself. So if they say it's coming, no, that's not the place you want to go. You see, that kind of thing. So I've always looked at it like, okay, generally for our leaders, you see that I've always been saying something. This country, we are still evolving. We have a very long way to go. I think we will see our true selves when our economy grows to the extent that there are many jobs that, look, whatever you're doing, you lose your job today, in a week or two, you can get another. Then that's when people will express themselves. That is when you see the true Ghanaian. But right now, because the economy is very tight, there are no jobs, people don't often want to express their own political opinions and the rest for fear of victimization, whether in the private sector or in the public sector. Because even when you're in a private company, and you know maybe your boss is aligned to one political party, you are careful not to express opinions on the other. But where you are aware that, look, whatever you say, if your boss is not happy and you have to quit, within a week or two, you'll find a job. People will be freer. So for me, I think that we still have a very long way to go in terms of the political structure that we have in Ghana currently.
All right. Let's connect with Franklin Kudjo, President of Imani Africa. He has joined us on Zoom now. Good morning to you, Franklin.
Good morning to yourself, Abena. Good morning to my good friends in the studio, my good lawyer, who just spoke as well. Hope you are well, lawyer.
Yeah, thank you, Franklin. Thank you.
We are talking about the former president, Rawlings, and everything we've known him to be. Let me pick your thoughts on that. We are just wrapping up on that subject.
Well, as everybody else is saddened and shocked at the demise of the former president, I think there are fewer words. I think he was equally loved and equally looked in some office, right? But that defines who a human being really is. For me, I think he taught me the virtues of speaking up and speaking out, confronting authority where it matters most, even though it was a bit risky during his time confronting his issues. But I think that the legacy he left, especially as a pioneer for this fourth Republican, should I say, dispensation that we have, is credited for beating the path towards these boundless freedoms that we have today. And for me, that resonates with me exceedingly well, because as a libertarian, I believe that the principles of the abilities to speak out, freedom, economic thought, political thoughts, and indeed everything that flows from it is the beginning of building a prosperous country. I think we've squandered some of these principles in the past. We are only beginning to regain them now, simply because we have what he left us, he bequeathed us, which is the constitutional dispensation. I must admit that we've gone overboard. It's as if kids who have been given car keys and whiskey and then they misbehave when it comes to our freedoms in this country. But I must say that I'd rather live in a country where there's boundless freedom, where there's opportunity to speak out, because that is the only way prosperity can flow. We can deal with the other vexed issues about the excesses in terms of the freedom of speech and your limitations beginning where someone else's rights begin. But I must admit that he left us with, for me personally, that's the lessons I picked from his legacy, really, and he'll be sorely missed.
All right. I'm bringing in some of the messages our viewers and listeners have been sending us, and then we'll move on to talk about other issues. Kwesi in Kasoa, Papa J's death has been peaceful. Indeed, we've lost a great man. May his soul rest in peace. Sami Della says, I'm surprised Honorable Mesa is trying to make politics out of Rawlings' death. Yes, we criticized him anytime he went wrong, and when he did right too, we hailed him. His achievement is unprecedented. Papa J should rest well. On Twitter, Prince Henry says, a mighty tree has fallen. May the soul of President Rawlings rest in glorious peace. My condolences to the family, the NDC, and Ghanaians. He will forever remain the person who founded Ghana's Fourth Republic. Okay. Kweko, interesting views being expressed on the big issue. We should maintain a posture of unity as a country. After all, that's what Papa J would have loved. Okay. Thank you for your messages. Let's move on to talk about this audit on the foreign travels of Auditor General Daniel Yao Domelevo. Now, the audit report revealed that he and 6 deputies spent 3.3 million Ghana cedis on foreign travels from January 1, 2017 to June 30 this year. The audit was conducted by a private firm, K&A Accounting Services, appointed by the Audit Service Board. The board commissioned the exercise because it realized that the Auditor General traveled without seeking approval. It also said the Auditor General did not account for the travels and the sources of funding. Here's a report on that findings of the audit report.
According to the audit report, Daniel Yao Domelevo spent over 400,000 Ghana cedis from the period 2017 to 2020. Mr. Domelevo, within the period captured, traveled 43 times out of the country and spent a total of 276 days out of Ghana. The acting Auditor General, Johnson Esiedu Ekwamwa, traveled 10 times out of the country and spent a total of 114 days out of the country at the cost of close to 50,000 Ghana cedis. Deputy Auditor General George Swansea Winful, within 3 years, traveled 19 times out of the country, spent 191 days at the cost of over 250,000 Ghana cedis. Deputy Auditor General Roberta Esiama Apia, within the 3-year period, traveled 14 times out of the country for a total number of 262 times at the cost of over 220,000 Ghana cedis. Deputy Auditor General Blessed Bafuata traveled 16 times for a total number of 181 days at the cost of over 250,000 Ghana cedis. Deputy Auditor General Benjamin Kujo traveled 12 times out of the country for a total of 222 days at the cost of over 219,000 Ghana cedis. Deputy Auditor General Ali Mohammed Zakaria, within the period, traveled 3 times for a total number of 45 days at the cost of almost 17,000 Ghana cedis. The report further noted that the number of days assigned to 2 Deputy Auditors General, Roberta Esiama Apia and Benjamin Kujo, for the 2020 IMO audit in London were exceeded by 36 and 79 days respectively due to the COVID-19 lockdown. With regards to the issue of personal foreign travels of the Auditor General, the report noted that a 5-day trip to Malawi cost over 18,000 Ghana cedis in air travels, hotels and per diem of almost 1,000 cedis, fully funded by the Ghana Audit Service. The travel to Malawi from records available was to enable him hand over a house in Lilongwe, sell a car and a few items and ship the rest to Ghana. The appointment letter of the Auditor General, Mr. Domelevo, was not available to enable the team confirm the legitimacy of the payments. On the issue of failure to retire accountable interest, the report states that in March 2017, Mr. Domelevo traveled to Delhi, India, at the cost of $2,000 with no evidence of retirement. In June 2018, Mr. Domelevo spent over $1,500 on a trip to Geneva, Switzerland, with no documentation attached. In March 2019, Mr. Domelevo traveled to The Hague and London and spent a little over $4,000 and $1,000 respectively, with no documentation attached. In response to the audit, in a letter to the chairman of the Audit Service Board, Professor Edward Duajiman, dated September 28, 2020, Mr. Domelevo, however, said Article 189 of the 1992 Constitution, which establishes the Audit Service Board, did not give the power to commission such audits into the activities of his office.
Yeah, so those were the findings of that audit report by K&A Accounting Services. It was commissioned by the Board of the Audit Service. I'd like to begin with you, Franklin, on this one. What do you make of this report when it came out?
Well, first of all, I think that audit issues are rather allowed in every institution, and so let no man or woman discount the impact of audits. But it must be also said that the audits must be, I don't want to begin to question the vested interest involved in this matter, but let's look at the substance of the issue that have been raised. So the questions I have are, one, are these travels necessarily out of line? Were they necessary for capacity building purposes, for instance? They've not told us the essence of those travels, right? It's important. It's important to know the essence of the travels, what they meant, whether the inviting institutions were going to pay for any aspect of the travel at all, and if they were not going to pay, what were the modalities involved in seeking approval for these travels internally within the audit service? This is a crucial question, and I think once the report is able to tell us that beyond just saying that they needed such approval from the board, there's a thin line between seeking approval for certain levels of, should I call it, functions. And I think it's important that we know. I mean, look, speaking for myself, we are not a public entity. But anytime I've had to travel, it's not all travels that I have to tell my board. So a few times that I've traveled with one or two of my board members, that's the only time they got to know. But I weigh it against whether it is beneficial to the organization, whether it's going to bring me future business. Because look, frankly speaking, people think traveling in an aeroplane is fun. It's not, especially if you are not if you are not endowed and if you are not endowed to purchase tickets in the business or semi-business class. But the point is, do we have rules regarding travels within the public sector? There was a time when the code of conduct was supposed to be published. I know in certain jurisdictions, travels are sanctioned. I mean, public officers may not travel beyond certain allotted numbers, and besides, they only have to travel economy class, unless of course they are special physical, or should I call it medical needs or medical reasons. And besides, if the travel is longer, then definitely, because I know, for instance, my chaperone, when I was giving a mini-state visit to Australia, was telling me that, well, the Australian government would normally, if it's a short haul, it's an economy. But we did business at some point between, I think, Perth and Melbourne, because if you look at this carefully, that's a very long haul. And the only reason why we had to do business, it was because it was longer. Now, these persons have to be able to, we need these kinds of, should I call it, rules or regulations. So we need to know what is in place for public officers, and especially within the audit service, so that it doesn't become as if the commentary we run is to be a witch hunt. Of course, we all know that there have been issues that led to this particular matter. But let's not also discount the fact that maybe there may be certain issues to be raised out of all this audit. The question though is, how many times have this audit been done, especially in terms of travel, and exactly what are the rules regarding travel and per diem? I mean, I think it's important to get those, because you see, the challenge with this is that we may be looking at just one part of the public sector, when in actual fact, wasn't there a time when the president suggested that people should not travel? I thought that following from that rule, would have been some modality, some code of conduct regarding the types of travel you need to make, the extent of the travel. And I'd like to also add the bottom line addition to the business, whether be it public or private. It must be. I mean, I typically turn down travels even when it's paid for.
Okay.
Yes, because I don't see the value.
Frankly, so you say you don't question any audit reports, but even when the Constitution says it's only Parliament that can commission such an audit of the audit service, you don't think the whole basis of this particular audit of the service should be questioned?
Well, I mean, there are methodological issues here, really. I can understand the constitutional strictness we need to follow, that this ought to be done. Listen, I'm striking a careful balance here. As a civil society actor, that had been all out for the Auditor General. I must also be cautious because not to allow constitutional limitations to mar what ordinarily should be done, not just with the audit service, but every public entity anyway. So less people, by all means, or less people over the fact that, well, certain limitations were breached and certain constitutional strictures were breached. I think we can have that. I just don't want us to get bogged into the constitutionality matter, because then you see people listening, and not everybody is sophisticated to understand the issue. They may say, when it came to the constitutional issues, or when it came to the propriety of an audit, you are holding brief for somebody that you consider very, very influential and respectable. And I do consider the Auditor General. I know he's never done, he wouldn't do anything untoward in his line of work. And this, much as I think this is a clear witch hunt, I must also be careful not to upset the whole idea of audit. I mean, we know the banter that had occurred between the Auditor General and the board chair. It's an unhealthy one. So what appeared to be something that should be formalized now has been brushed, has been done, and you see, you can begin to question. In any case, what if the constitutional, should I say, dispensation or whatever it is was respected and then done anyway? We did come to the same conclusions. So I think we also need to be with cautious with that type of analysis. Yeah.
Honorable Mesa, on the back of all that has happened between Professor Agyemang and Daniel Domelevo, can we trust the basis of this audit report?
Well, unless you're questioning the fidelities of the audit company that conducted the audit, I fail to see how you can say that because there are issues with the chairman of the board of the audit service and the Auditor General, regular performance of functions ought not take place. Because this K&A accounting firm that conducted the audit, I'm sure that their own integrity would be extremely important to them, and they would act within the professional ethics that govern their work. And so to that extent, I would not question the work that they did at all, because I do not have any basis to do so. Of course, I don't know to what extent that the board chair can witch hunt the Auditor General. They may have their personal issues that we have all heard in the public domain. But the constitutional provisions and the law itself, the Audit Service Act, clearly have rules and functions such that coexisting and each one performing their functions would not necessarily be inimical to the function of the Audit Service or the Auditor General. Of course, I know that Franklin and some of my friends in civil society had issues with the request based on the recommendation from the board chair, pursuant to which His Excellency the President directed that the Auditor General proceeds on leave. With respect to the audit, I've heard the comment that the Constitution in Article 187
15 says that the accounts of the Office of the Auditor General shall be audited and reported upon by an auditor appointed by Parliament. But if you look at the report, the mandate of the auditors who were appointed by the board was to audit foreign travels of the Auditor General and his deputies. Question is, and of course the board chair has indicated in response to Mr. Domelevo that as a board they have oversight over the activities of the entity, and so conducting an audit specific to a particular aspect of their work is not in breach of any law. It would be good for Mr. Domelevo to proceed to test the validity or otherwise of that assertion in courts, because I'm an ardent believer in due process. And if it is established that indeed what the action that the board chair took, or the board, if you like, because I'm not sure that the board chair will act without some resolutions having been passed at board meetings to that effect. By all means, and if it's established that he did something that is against the law and is subject to condemnation, I'm happy to condemn him for that. But
you don't see any breach?
I do not see any breach. Okay. With respect to conducting audits of management activity in the regular course of operations, and so that's just my view on it. And it's interesting that we want to put all the issues together without necessarily isolating them, because his leave that he is on now, all the recognition that is due him as Auditor General, I believe, is being accorded him. I think that the leave is proper. Others feel that it's improper. They're entitled to their view. I'm saying
well,
that,
something this is all part of a grand plan to further smear his image, so that then after the leave it will be an easier sack.
I don't think so at all. Why so? Why? Because he has an issue with the Audit Service Board chair. They cannot conduct an audit if there is clear wrongdoing, as the report suggests. Right? That should not take place, because there's a conflict between the two of them, if you like. I'm not sure that anybody, and Franklin, walked the fine line in suggesting that because of their own anti-corruption fight and due process, he thinks that there's no reason to question the actions of the board relative to initiating an audit. But that, of course, if it is intended to smear him, indeed, due process was again followed by submitting the findings to him. Per the report, he declined to respond. Some of the other people who were affected in the audit provided their responses, and same was incorporated in the report. I would have thought that regardless of whatever objections that he had with respect to the audit, to the extent that the findings may have an impact one way or the other on what it is that your reputation is, you provide the responses with some objection, so that at least if you want to challenge it subsequently, then we would all be in a position to say that, well, yes, the man objected to the process that is being taken through, but that he indeed obliged a response to the inquiries that have been put out there. And if he's proceeding to challenge or that, the explanations then addresses the issues that have been raised in the findings of the auditors. We could also look at that with whatever lessons that we have to look at. But to refuse, particularly he being the Auditor General, to respond to audit queries, when indeed the matter regarding his leave is pending in the courts, and the expectation is that some decision will be delivered one way or the other to either confirm
the directive from Mr. Cecilus, the president, or to defeat it, then we would have been in a position to as it were, have a meaningful conversation on the issues as they are. But to the extent that he declined to respond, I fail to see how I can have pity on him with respect to findings that are adverse that have been made against him in the report.
Honorable Law.
Well, I struggle to understand what my good brother Bobo just said. He spoke a lot, but he didn't arrive at any point.
Oh.
Now, let's be very, very, very practical about this matter. You see, I always say something, that when we took the butchers and the market women and all the people to go and sit in a room and draft the constitution, every line they put there was a reason why they put it.
But that the statement that you made is incorrect.
Please. The
butchers drafted any constitution discussion.
The beautiful thing about constitution, that there's always the intentions of the framers. Now, when a framer creates a board,
the committee of experts drafted the constitution.
When the framers, drafted the constitution, and then they created an audit service board, and yet they said to the audit service board that, look, you can appoint this number of people, but not the auditor general. There is a reason for doing that. And if the same people go through around in the constitution and gave power to parliament to be the body that should audit the audit service, there is a reason. And I'm sure that they were foreseeing some of these things. That is why they created those two leeways. Now, even more important is what my brother talks about, that a management audit. Please, there is always an internal auditor or the internal agency, audit agency, where you can ask to come and do some internal audit. This one was not an internal audit. Aside an internal audit, any external audit must be done by an auditor appointed by Parliament. To the extent that these auditors were not appointed by Parliament, they were external auditors. Mr. Domelevo was on all fours to disregard whatever report he brought. Constitutionally so. Because he is working with the Constitution. Okay? And I'm saying that the Constitution itself envisages that the Auditor General must be audited. And he says that when it comes to that time, the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, the people's representative, should be the ones who should convene a committee. And that committee will appoint an auditor. And then that auditor now comes to audit the Auditor General and his office. And when he so does, then all these queries will be sent to him for answers. But if you are sitting there as Auditor General, and some joker comes from somewhere says, I've done an external audit, so I brought you queries, would you respect that? Would you respect that? Obviously not. Then you don't know the remit of your office. Then you don't know how your office is structured. So Mr. Domelevo is properly on spot when he says that, look, I will not even answer, dignify your audit with an answer. The chairman of the audit service board and his whole board has no authority whatsoever to appoint an auditor to audit the office of the Auditor General on any floor. What they can do is to ask the internal auditor to possibly go through the trouble and bring them a report. If they so find, then the proper thing will be that they will write to the appointer, who is the president. Then the president can now ask Parliament or refer to Parliament that, please, I want the Auditor General, a special audit or something, and it will be done. Or even the Minister of Finance, they could write to the Minister of Finance, who controls the purse, say that because of the Minister of Finance would now tell Parliament that I want a special audit done. That is what you can do.
The power belongs to the president, not the Minister of Finance.
So whatever it is,
our ministers have
the board
powers.
Yes, the board has
the Constitution says the president.
The board has done the wrong thing, and let's nobody come and say clearly from what others are saying. It is all part of the scheme to get Mr. Domelevo out.
Okay, in commissioning the report, let me tell you what the board said. They denied breaching any law. So it used Article 1893B of the Constitution, that the board had the power to make regulations through a constitutional instrument for effective and efficient administration of the audit service. It says that it was the duty of the board to ensure accountability of all funds entrusted to the audit service, and also they shall be ultimately accountable and responsible for the overall performance of the audit service and secure its public sector financial management and accountability process of the country.
Now, does that go contrary to the constitutional provision? Now, a legislative instrument and a constitutional instrument, which one is that? So clearly, you cannot be referring to some legislative instrument when the Constitution has given you a clear path and a clear direction. So this is moot. You shouldn't even be talking about. They should be ashamed of themselves for even raising this issue. Whatever LI you do must be consistent with the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. So you see, clearly, they don't even understand what they are doing. You see, I'm saying that you can still secure the internal funds, and you do that. That is why we have the internal audit agency, and that in every serious organization, there's an internal auditor who makes sure that things are done, and the board can ask for a report from the internal auditor on any aspect of management. If they so find, then they should use the proper means, because the only way you can really thoroughly ascertain if there was some malfeasance or some misapplication or something is through a proper audit.
What about the substance of the findings? This
I am saying that the finding is null and void to the extent that it hasn't been done with the proper authorization. Because CTSFM, so you said that CTSFM, when your own constitutive act says that Joy FM is the one who should appoint an auditor for you, then you are seated here, then they say, oh, Benadevle has asked you to ask us to commission an audit, and so these are the reports you see, you are going to answer them. So let's be very practical and frank about this.
Mr. Pebu.
Yes. I'm basically in agreement with Honorable Low. I mean, in law, this is one of the occasions where you will say, I have nothing useful to add. But I'm sure because viewers and listeners want to hear my own words, yes, I'll be saying the same thing in different words. Look, to be very honest with you, I'm shocked that as a nation we've sat down for this audit to go through. I mean, look, elsewhere we should be charging the board chairman and the board with causing financial loss.
Thank you.
What does the board chairman want? Is the audit service is private property? I mean, it's so ridiculous. The Constitution is clear that this work belongs to Parliament. Article 187, Clause 15. Let's read it. Look, we should stop joking. This board chairman has to be charged with causing financial loss to the state. He's turned the Constitution on its head, and our citizens were quiet. I mean, that's what I'm more shocked about. The citizens are quiet, and the board has turned the Constitution on its head. Look, it says the accounts, Article 187, Clause 15, says the accounts of the Office of the Auditor General shall be audited and reported upon by an auditor appointed by Parliament. I mean, this one, what English again do you want? It's clear. So where we have the problem, rather, is that citizens are quiet and allowing this gross abuse of the Constitution to go on. We can't allow that. Why the rush? If they have anything at all, draw Parliament's attention to it. And look, we think maybe there's some more feasance. Please go ahead, appoint the auditor. Why do you set Parliament's power? And citizens are quiet. That is the bigger problem. That citizens are quiet and this is going on. I don't know what kind of culture this is. That we just, look, I think we just are too much afraid. Sometimes everybody wants to keep their job. Everybody wants to keep their job. No, you do that, it's going to fester. It's like what one of the Supreme Court judges referred to in the MPP vs GBC here. That from a pimple, it will become a boil. Yes, this kind of constitutional violations, you allow it, it will fester. From a pimple to become a boil.
So Domlevo is right not responding to it.
Definitely. Look, in law, there's this basic thing we say, capacity. When you're going to court. So let's say that Honorable Law owes you $1 million. you've not given him any authorization. And then so Honorable Law owes you 1 million. You've not given me any authorization to sue him for the money. Then I go ahead and sue Honorable Law in the court. The first thing he'll be asking, so Pebu, who authorized you to come to this court? On what basis? What's your capacity? That's the main matter. It doesn't matter that this thing he owes. So the first question, who has asked the board to do this? You see, and I think that, you see, the board chairman, I was expecting that, you see, growing up, we thought that professors knew everything. So, you see, with a title, Professor, so you're expecting that, at least, having reason, though I know his professor is not in law, but generally, to get to professorship in any field, you would have done a lot of reading. So, certain basic things you expect. Why the rush? If you think the board should have such a power, then maybe seek a constitutional interpretation. That's how this this Auditor General, they used to subject the budget of the service to hearings, 3 budget ceilings and hearings at the Ministry of Finance. Then Brown went to court. So you found the case of Brown versus Attorney General 2010. The Supreme Court struck down that and said no, Auditor General's accounts and all those things, they are presented straight to Parliament. But of course, they advise that in practice, because the Minister of Finance, you can do consultations and all that. But it's not mandatory that take your accounts to the Minister of Finance, every year before they present the annual budget to Parliament. The various departments and agencies go to the Minister of Finance. They have what they call budget hearings and ceilings, where you have to clear your budget with it. Then they'll strike out certain things. That was what they were doing to the audit service. Somebody went to court, and you see that's been cleared. And if you read that judgment, you see how the Supreme Court was at pains to make it clear to us as citizens that, look, don't toy with the Auditor General's office. He is the #1 watchdog person. He plays a watchdog role. External audit is no joke. So I'm surprised that the board is not taking proper advice and they're just usurping Parliament's power. And Bobo, you are quiet. And you are quiet, Bobo.
Just to chip in something. In other jurisdictions, the Auditor General is appointed with prior approval from Parliament. In fact, it was one of the things we were working at when I was ranking member of Public Accounts Committee. So really, the Auditor General's office is not one of those that some board chairman will sit there and be playing games with. And that is why even the appointment, the board cannot appoint, the board cannot remove him. You understand?
Yeah.
The board can deal with any other officer of the audit service. But when it comes to the Auditor General, his office is up there. It's like a Supreme Chief Justice.
Honorable Mensah, they are in disagreement with your point.
Hold on. Oh, let me read one question from the...
Okay, you let him make his point.
You see, we need to draw a clear distinction between the audit of the accounts of the audit service or the office of the Auditor General and the board's mandate in ensuring the effective and efficient running of the activities of the entity. And so if there is some report that indicates that some foreign travels, per diems, interest have not been retired, you are saying that the board has no mandate to audit that?
No.
How so?
Hold on. Parliament. Parliament will appoint us. Yes, waste our resources. This double waste.
The law is clear. And when it comes to the entirety of the accounts, Parliament is the body that appoints an auditor to audit the accounts of the audit service. So I'm saying to you that does that mean that if in the normal course of the reporting, board meetings, where accounts are submitted, of course, the Auditor General's audit service functions as every corporate entity within the public service. They submit monthly accounts to their board. So if there's an infraction on a particular aspect of the operations of the entity, they cannot audit it.
Let me answer him.
No, I want
Do you know why the appointment of an auditor for the Auditor General was taken away from the Auditor General himself and sent the audit service and sent to Parliament?
But how could that entity audit itself?
I am saying that. Do you know why?
No, I'm asking.
Do you know why it was taken from the Auditor General Audit Service itself.
But they are the auditors of the
Thank
state.
you. Thank you.
But I'm saying this is a management action.
Please, and I'm saying that. You see,
audit the foreign travels for us.
Please,
it cannot be done.
You report to Parliament, then Parliament can do that.
The Auditor General,
please,
has so much influence over who does an audit. That what you are saying is moot, is neither here nor there. Look, in the wisdom of the framers of the Constitution, they are saying that whenever the audit service has to be audited, Parliament, we have given you that duty to appoint an auditor, and nobody can take that duty away from Parliament.
So hold on. You see,
the audit service board, and they should be lined up by now and charge for custody financial losses. Because after that, Parliament will also appoint an auditor who will charge us again.
Yes. You and I are professionals.
Of course.
So the talk of your point is neither here nor there. Ought to be
more policy.
Let's take it out of our discourse. Because we can agree. I don't have a problem with all.
He's retracted that. Yeah.
I'm saying that.
Sorry.
Audit of accounts is yearly. Every financial year close. Just as the public service accounts are audited by the Auditor General. Parliament ought to appoint an auditor to audit the accounts of the audit service and the office of the Auditor General.
Yes.
But I'm asking a simple question.
Yes.
So if in the regular monthly account reporting, some infraction is detected, you are saying that the board
attention should be drawn.
Parliament attention should be drawn. Let him make his point.
Parliament attention should be drawn.
He's asking
Parliament attention should be drawn. And then they will appoint.
Simple. Let's not waste time.
Let him make his point. Let him make his point. We need to take a break here. Honorable Minister, please finish.
I have very little time because I just looking for barely 2 minutes when you went back. Look, the constitutional provision didn't say that Parliament should do annual appointment. It says auditing their accounts. So whether it's half yearly, monthly, or annually, please, it's Parliament. Let's not confuse viewers. This thing is too clear. Sometimes, look, the man is done wrong. The audit board, they have to be charged with causing financial loss. That is very much clear. That is it. Let's not skate anything.
Okay, you round up your points. We still have to hear from you.
I disagree.
Okay,
and
fine.
I am of the view that, and if you look at the Audit Service Act, it's clear. The functions of the board of the audit service are spelled out there. And they are responsible for the day-to-day management of the service. Okay? Separate from the Auditor General's function of auditing all entities of state. The board, the service is a public service. And it is subject to the direction of a board. And so if there is an infraction or if there are some financial issues that requires decisions to be taken, I don't see how you can argue that the board has no mandate to appoint an auditor to audit that specific financial issue that has come to the knowledge of the board. But you wait for the annual audit to be conducted. That they should wait for Parliament to conduct an audit. But audits are conducted on an annual basis.
No, if you find need to not wait for the annual, you can do special audits and the rest.
Okay, this is a good time to take a break, gentlemen. This is the big issue on City FM and City TV. After this break, we'll have more. Don't go away.
It is Christmas. What do you want for Christmas? A new car, a vacation, or expand your business? Make your wish and have it come true in the 100 days of Christmas with a Republic Bank Christmas loan. The Republic Christmas loan is quick, easy, and so affordable with super fast turnaround time. Come into any of our branches nationwide. Call or WhatsApp 055-654-3212 or apply online via republicghana.com. Remember, wear your nose mask, stay safe. Republic Bank, we are the one for you.
Introducing new Sunlight 2-in-1. It gives you burst, after burst, after burst of long-lasting freshness. New Sunlight 2-in-1 for burst after burst of long-lasting freshness.
You're welcome back. This is the big issue on City FM and City TV. Before we went for the break, we were talking about this audit report by KNA Accounting Services. It was commissioned by the Board of the Audit Service on the foreign travels of the Auditor General Daniel Domelevo and 6 other deputies. Finally, before we wrap up on this subject, I want to know, some people say that it's about time the president intervened in this back and forth at the Office of the Auditor General between the board chair and then the Auditor General.
Well, who first?
You can go first.
Okay. You see, well, the president is the appointer. He appoints the Auditor General. So he can intervene. But what will be the level of intervention? Because you see, once you become an Auditor General, your office is supposed to be insulated from executive control. You know, so maybe the courts are the proper forum.
For Domelevo.
Yeah, because when the president is to intervene, and what if the intervention is that the president sides with the chairman of the board?
Okay.
You understand? Or what is the president going to tell Domelevo, which will not constitute instructions or directions or influence? So I would think that maybe the courts should come and arbitrate in this matter and give definite direction for future reference, because I think that this may not be the only time we'll have this kind of problem. And so once the court comes in, the Supreme Court comes in and gives direction, at least then we have precedent to follow.
There's actually a case in court on that.
On that
relationship between, the functions of the board.
Let the Supreme Court come out and then we let it.
All right, I'll pick a couple of messages on this subject. Forgive me if I don't read your messages because of the language you use. You know, this is television, and there are people here. These are honorable members and learned people having a conversation on this matter. We need to respect each other's views. So if I don't read your message, you know that's why I didn't. Farouk in Tamale, the MPP cannot divert our minds from the corruption that engulfs their government. They should leave the Auditor General alone. Okay, Queen La Paz, these auditors spent about 3 million Ghana cedis on foreign travels. How much did the other public servants spend, including the parliamentarians, in traveling abroad? Okay. Okay, all right, let's move on. We can now talk about the Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu. And last week we were talking about how former President Mahama gave him a response after his mention in the report about the Ijapa deal, his findings, and there was a mention of the Airbus there saying that former President Mahama is government official 1. He wasn't inviting him because of the political season and all that. We are going to play back Mr. Mahama's response, and then I'll read a letter the Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu wrote to the media in response to Mr. Mahama.
Amidu goes and presents Ijapa shares, Ijapa investigation, and I thought he was man enough. You go, they say investigate Ijapa, present a report on Ijapa. If you've investigated Airbus, present a report on Airbus. But in the Ijapa report, you know that it's going to be damning of this government. You go and put one paragraph there about Airbus. Nobody asked you about Airbus. If you were man enough, present Ijapa and do a report on Airbus, separate. And then I'll come as a man and answer you on Airbus. If you think that I'm indicted on Airbus, accuse me directly. But because he's a coward, and they knew that Ijapa was going to be discussed today, because he was a coward,
And he knew that they were going to discuss Ijapa. So put a paragraph on Airbus to equalize the discussion. I mean, what stupidity is this? You are investigating Ijapa. Present a report in Ijapa. Why? Because you know Ijapa is going to be discussed. You've indicted the president's cousin as finance minister, and you're afraid that you are presenting only a report on Ijapa. So in the Ijapa report, put some other reports that balance the equation. I thought he was man enough. Come out. The point is, you say I'm the leader of a political party. I say, if you have a legal basis for investigating me, go ahead and investigate me. If you have a legal basis for investigating me, go ahead and investigate me. There's been a DPA, a deferred protection agreement. You are not a party to it. You don't know who are involved in it. They've identified some people in it. You don't have an authenticated agreement from SFO or from whoever is involved in it. And you say, I surmise that government official one is so. Somebody is so.
All right, so that's Mr. Mahama's response there. So on the 9th of November, the special prosecutor issued a release responding to Mr. Mahama. I'm just going to read portions of that release in what he said. Okay, so the long public service of the special prosecutor spanning various aspects of security and intelligence from the period of February 1982 to the 7th of January 2001 and July 2009 and January 2012 makes him more experienced in determining when it is not conducive to the national security interest to full-heartedly take certain law and order actions. The special prosecutor owes that exercise of discretion to his vast experience over the years, his responsibility to maintain national stability, and his conscience as a patriotic, anti-corruption crusading Ghanaian. There is no question of stupidity or cowardice about it. Any person aspiring to be president of Ghana for a second term who does not know that a cardinal principle in security and intelligence is that caution is the better part of valor was not and is not worth the votes. His Excellency former President Mahama cannot pick and choose from the Ijapa Royalties Limited report. The last sentence in the first paragraph on page 54 of the report offered the former president the opportunity to voluntarily come forward and make a caution statement, and he repeats what he said there. So it goes on to say, Your Excellency, the wise and brave former President John Mahama, if you really assert that there is no piece of evidence showing that you are elected government official one, why do you not simply voluntarily come to be cautioned, be interrogated and confronted with the evidence against you as elected government official one? I'll just read the last but one. Your Excellency, the wise, brave former President Mahama, man up, wise up, and be brave enough to come with 2 lawyers of your own choice to be cautioned and interrogated by this office to demonstrate your valor and wisdom as not being elected government official one, and also as not being the first guarantor to Samuel Adam Mahama's passport application. Yeah, so those were the issues there. Franklin, would you like to start on this?
Well, for a moment I thought you had forgotten about me.
How can I?
Let me just say that this is a very lazy work that the special prosecutor has done. And I have to choose my words advisedly, and I replace and I emphasize the word lazy. You see, this man is being paid with our money. And we all were in opposition against the government when it was clear that he was being more or less prevented from doing his work in terms of resources. We clamored for resources. There were some investigations he was undertaking. He said he was being inhibited. We all spoke about it. And then eventually about 180 million or so was allocated to his office, out of which I think 20-something million has been disbursed. You had the time to look at this government official one business. when this matter broke, Airbus matter broke months ago, right? He even issued a very careless red alert, which eventually turned out to be farcical. Then he had all the time to investigate and just get to the conclusion that, look, this is the man who is government official one. He chose not to do any of that, but relied on commentary that is in the media. Everybody is talking, oh, government official one, maybe a mama. Some people have said so many things. I mean, if you listen to radio, even if you listen to what you read what people write on social media, it is implied. If I came out strongly and said that if President Mahama did not answer this particular question, then it would affect his electoral chances. Those comments we were making at the time were born out of the suspicions that we all had. If the special prosecutor, who is paid with our money, spent months issuing careless orders and came to the realization that, oh, after another report, which he was, in fact, he decided to commission the Japan one, and then put in a line in that report that, oh, I think the officer one, or government officer one is Mahama, but because of the extenuating circumstances of an election and because of the impending security implications of an invitation to him, let's allow him to go ahead. First, there are two issues here. One, he's being very careless. He's trying to suggest that if anybody commits a crime and the person goes to hide in the church during the church service, the person should not be held before any competent court of law. That's what he's trying to tell me. That if somebody came to steal, vandalize your property and stole your money and some other important valuables, and eventually the person was found out and paraded and you identified the person, because it's Christmas, you say, oh, let's have the Yuletide. Yuletide is a season of forgiveness and peace and all of that. And then let the guy stay on until such a time that you feel less pain to invite the person. I mean, how careless can you get, really? The circumstances I'd like to mention that diffuses his rather careless responses are that, look, in Peru, recently in Peru, the president, who has a 60% approval rating, was held before Congress. I think Congress has about 10 or 15% approval rating in Peru. Held before him for crimes he had committed years ago when he was a mayor, when he was said to have collected 500,000 pounds, right? And the Congress deposed him. There were no parades and there were no riots in Peru, even though the president of Peru had 60% approval rating. You know what that implies security-wise? Go back to Israel. Netanyahu was being questioned. In fact, there were circumstances which suggested that because he's prime minister, they couldn't hold him before a court. But his days were just numbered. He's been invited at least once or twice to come and speak to the matter. So we cannot sit here and allow these cases to be treated on the altar of bravado. I mean, it's like watching Commander 45, a movie I favorably love. What the commander was going on about when he decides to pick on somebody or not, when people have been accused of committing crimes, he picks and chooses when he wants to punish people. So I'm sorry, my good friend Matiamidu, I mean, we applaud you. We think that you are a good man, but on this particular issue, you failed. And I think that it's annoying to hear those reasons being given, that, oh, because of an impending elections, so because of that, I'm giving somebody insurance. But look at the response he gives in his repost to the former president. The former president uses words I subscribe to. The word stupid, obviously I don't subscribe to it. But I think the special prosecutor's response that says, if you are man enough, bring 2 lawyers. Another careless opportunity to throwing his weight about. But what's the point? You said the person, you can't invite the person because of what? The circumstances of the day. Assuming we take that on the face value, so by inviting him and telling him that if he's man enough, have those circumstances been diffused? You understand? So I think that he should be very cautious how he goes about his work. He's not doing this in his personal capacity. That's what he needs to realize. He's doing this on behalf of the state. So I said to Mr. Martin Amidu, you wasted so much time, Ghana's time, chasing me aimless reports, issuing aimless orders like red alerts, only for you not to do the work, and only for you to come and surmise that, oh, I think that in another report that I think this is the man. But because of elections, I'm not good. Have you concluded the investigations? You haven't. You didn't. You understand? You see, these are some of the things some public officers do who are fighting corruption, which makes it difficult for some of us lay people to be supportive of them.
Okay.
But so it's really, for me, I got very angry when I heard the issues about the reasons why I can't invite the former president. I'll give you the instance of Peru. You think
should Mr. Mahama go for that interrogation?
He should invite him.
Okay.
He should invite him properly. That's what he should do. And shouldn't be writing aimless letters saying that if you are man enough, come. Well, we didn't pay him to be issuing threats to people. We pay him so that he does his work professionally. I'm really angry, seriously.
Okay, cool down.
Yeah. I'm angry because it makes our work very, very, very difficult.
Honorable Mensah.
Well, to a large extent, I agree with Franklin. Because since the Airbus deferred prosecution agreement was issued on the 31st of January 2020, I have taken pains to read both the US and the UK judgments. Of course, I can't read and write French, so I haven't read the French judgment. His Excellency the President made a referral to the special prosecutor right from the very outset, because Ghana was mentioned as one of the countries that Airbus had admitted paying bribes and political contributions to government officials for purposes of facilitating acquisition of aircraft from Airbus. I was clear in my mind right from the very beginning who government official one was, because even though names were not mentioned, it is indeed a fact that Ghana procured military aircraft from Airbus between 2011 and 2015. It is indeed a fact that the consultant or individual four who was mentioned in there is the brother of the former President Mahama, and his associates are known. They were named. It is indeed a fact that there is only one, if you like, two individuals who are in government who are actually elected, because ministers of state who are in government are not elected. They are all appointed. But the president of the republic and his vice president, by extension of the interpretation of the constitution, they are the only two individuals who are elected. It is also a fact that 2011 and 2015, there were only three people who potentially could be government official one. Professor Mills, because he was president, and Mr. Mahama, because he was vice president from 2009 to 2012. And then Professor Mills having passed, but still the time frame existed beyond 2012 when he passed. You can safely eliminate him. And then also Pakwesi Misata of blessed memory. Then again, because the time frame that was referenced in the transaction documents between 2011, when Pakwesi Misata obviously was not a president or vice president, you could safely also eliminate. Only one man remains standing. He is the one who the judgment says, his brother, who had no experience whatsoever in the airline sales, aeronautics, or whatever industry was engaged to serve as a conduit, according to the judgment, for messages intended for government official one, which for all intents and purposes, per the documents, was Mr. John Mahama. So I was surprised when I saw in the Ejapa report, which I have my own issues with, and if we have time, we'll go into it, that the special prosecutor haven't had opportunity from February, thereabout, through till November, could not engage our international protocols that we have with the US and the UK to get all the documents, emails that were referenced in the documents. Because, you see, when the complaint was lodged by Boeing against Airbus, that Boeing was engaged in some unorthodox practices for purposes of promoting their business, and the investigation commenced, Airbus admitted and cooperated with not only one state entity, 3. The French, the UK, and the US submitted all the documents, including all the emails, because they are all contained in the judgments, to Airbus, to the investigators, and subsequently agreed that don't prosecute me based on the admissions that I have made, but that find me and I will abide by the terms of the agreement that I have reached with you, which in those jurisdictions are regular, happens. Okay, so for me, it was clear who government official one was right from the very beginning, day one. And so for the special prosecutor to now say that because the former president has bought himself an insurance by reason of the fact that he is the flag bearer of the leading opposition party in Ghana, he would not conduct an investigation, I think was unfortunate. Because clearly, yes, I know that the Constitution imposes some bar on prosecution. But he was not alone in the references to individuals and persons in the judgment. And it is not the case that the Constitution says that he cannot be investigated. It says prosecution.
But so you think he could have still gone ahead with the investigation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so to that extent, I would agree with Martin that the special prosecutor has not done us a lot of...
Franklin, you mean?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Franklin. Respect to his failure and or refusal to investigate the aspects of the Airbus judgment that relates to Ghana, for us to bring some finality and, if possible, some prosecution with respect to the people who took the bribes and political contributions from Airbus, which clearly infringes our laws, to be brought to justice.
Honorable Law.
Well, we are in interesting times, and I always smile when I hear arguments from various angles going in a certain direction. Let me start first of all by disabusing people's minds. The former president used the word stupid, and people are jumping over themselves. That's why they. But if you did a content analysis or a dictionary analysis of what stupid means, stupid means many things. Unintelligent, annoying.
But he chose stupid.
Yes, I'm saying that irritating. Those are the meanings of stupid.
Okay.
And so to the extent that even Franklin is saying that he was annoyed by the conduct of Martin Amidu. So if the former president used another synonym, which is stupid, what is wrong with it? So we should have an open mind about some of these things and not be jumping over ourselves and limiting ourselves to... There are several meanings to stupid. And he chose he means possibly on irritating in the context in which he spoke.
But he's a former president.
I'm saying that
some level of decorum.
I'm saying that what is stupid? What does it mean? The context in which you use stupid is important. And I'm saying that he said, look, it's cowardice and irritating. What is wrong with it? Or annoying?
Okay.
So what is all this noise about? He chose the word stupid. Of course, he was annoyed. And so you should understand the context from which we are speaking. But that is not just one. Two, you see, as for me, from the day Martin Amidu went and sat before a parliamentary vetting committee and was questioned about all the things he said about the former president as to corruption and things like that, and he said, there were speculations that he had. From that day, I never took him serious. The only thing that he does.
Really?
Yeah, of course. And he continues to show it. He continues to demonstrate it every day. Look at these childish things that he has been doing. Did we employ him to be sitting, instead of sitting in the night and doing investigation? He spends all the time sitting in the night writing about individuals he has beefs with. He's a disgrace to that office. Because you see, you know what went into the establishment of the Office of Special Prosecution? Ask him. Sleepless nights.
But you can't call him a disgrace.
He is disgraced the office.
Isn't that?
It is not.
That's harsh.
No, it's not harsh. Because by conduct, he's wasting the resources that we are giving him.
But he's done a corruption risk assessment on the hijack deal.
Which of them did he get up?
I hope we'll find time to go there because
I'm saying that which of them did he find time to say on his own merit?
Assessment, use certain words which were not, even the corruption risk assessment on the Japan, it confirms things that many people already know. And in fact, he went overboard by ascribing certain words to some aspects of the conduct of certain persons. I think it's just unfair, really.
Yeah. Okay. So really, particularly when you yourself admit that you did not conduct an investigation, which would have given you an opportunity to give the people a hearing.
Are we appropriating and reprobating at the same time? You see, because here is my brother who is talking about, he believes, and so by extension, he believes in what Martin Amidu has put here by saying that.
I didn't say so.
He said he believes that.
He said for him and all that he's read, he believes John Mahama is government official
to deal with it, like Franklin said. I agree.
There are many people there who could qualify to be elected government official one.
Okay.
And the then Minister for Finance.
It's not elected.
Dr. Kumbo is an elected member of Parliament.
But it's not a government official.
Please,
he's
not
a government
elected.
No.
You see.
That's no. You cannot place
I'm saying that you can also.
These are matters of fact.
No, listen. You can also not interpret it.
But I'm a member of Parliament. I'm elected. I'm not a government official.
Listen, you are elected.
I'm not a government official in the sense.
When you are appointed a minister, you become a government.
But you're an appointee.
You are elected, but you are elected first. Look, our constitution says that
I'm seeing variations in the interpretation.
Yeah, I'm saying that
elected official and appointed official.
Our constitution says that our constitution says that 2/3 of ministers should be elected officials, by implication, members of parliament. Okay. So what is he talking about? What is he talking about? So 2/3 of our ministers will always be what? Elected officials, because we're elected first into parliament to qualify to be appointed minister. So don't go there and think that there's only one interpretation as you have taken, the route that you have taken.
Okay.
Now, you see, this Ejapati,
the airbus.
Over the airbus. I mean, I just threw it to the dustbin with all that killing. Because like my brother rightly said, two things. Martin Amidu, we all thought he was a super lawyer. And he's demonstrating consistently that when it comes to the law, he's senior, so I will not say the things I wanted to say. But I don't think of him highly. Because, one, this is a man you know you cannot prosecute. Because the law bars you from prosecuting him. And then you are now coming to tell him that, if you are a man, bring 2 lawyers and let me caution you.
Yeah.
To what end? That is number one. 2, does he know that there's a law against self-incrimination? So in the unlikely event that even President Mahama says that I'm government official, he thinks that he should walk to his office and come and.
But I think former President Mahama has admitted that he's government official. He said so to graphic, but that he did not get any financial benefits. It's reported in the graphic.
You didn't say that. When you get the evidence, bring it. But I'm saying that if you are telling me that if you believe that you stole that thing, come with your lawyer so that I caution you for prosecution or possible prosecution. Who does that? So clearly he doesn't demonstrate to me that he knows what he's talking about.
Because he made his intentions known, and then the former president used those words. So
listen,
that's
the most absurd of them all is this rubbish about he's bought himself an insurance. When did the report of the deferred prosecution agreement come out? At the time, he was already the flag bearer of the NDC. So when did he then, so from implication, he said that, oh, it was only when he realized that I'm coming after him that he went and, no, so it doesn't make sense, all the things that he talks about. Sincerely, but Yamidu is not making sense. I know tomorrow, you will spend a midnight this thing and write something about me. I'll be happy to read. I'm throwing him the challenge because it's a waste of time. He's a human being at the office. He's a waste. We are spending $20 million. They shouldn't add a penny to his office until he's out of office.
You cannot say that.
I am saying that because he's not doing us any good.
No, Honorable Lord.
All the prosecutions that Matthew.
Choose
I am saying that all the prosecutions that
he's a human being. You cannot call him waste. I am saying
that.
You cannot say that.
That I call him what?
Yes, that he's a waste. You cannot say that.
When you are wasting our...
Kindly retract that.
For the likeness I have for you, but... Mr. In all sincerely, I think that Martin Mamidu is wasting our resources.
Okay,
and we should.
Okay, your point is well noted. This, I'm sure you've observed this back and forth exchanges between former President Mahama and then the special prosecutor.
Very complex, extremely complex. Yeah. You see, it appears that our society is becoming more and more liberal. You see, I'm just looking, 10 years ago, if the word stupid had been used, it would have caused far more negative reaction than this one did. So when you look at it, because you know, the people we learn from in the UK and America, if you say somebody is stupid, you really haven't insulted him much. It looks like because now our elite, the numbers are growing, the middle class, more people have traveled, have seen the use of stupid in other jurisdictions not being as bad as when we're kids. If somebody said you're stupid, woo, it was the worst. But as we grew and traveled to other jurisdictions, we saw that, oh, stupid is not really a big deal. You know, even kids tell their parents stupid. I'm not saying we are buying, I'm just trying to, as a lay person, I'm observing that it appears because of our interaction with other cultures, we are beginning to accept some of the words we hitherto considered very negative. That's just an aside. I'm not supporting it at all. In our proper Ghanaian context, stupid is still not accepted. We haven't formally or by and large accepted it. So it's not on, okay? Yes. But on the matter of the relationship and what it's going to, where it's headed for. You see, it's very difficult. As I said, this matter is a very complex one. You see, sometimes when you come on air, you want to comment about everything, but sometimes you just find out, look, you may not even understand what's going on. Because you see, as far as the Constitution is concerned, yes, it's true that in the Constitution as we provided, okay, you're looking at 53, thereabout, that the president, once he's in office or within 3 years after he's left office, he cannot be prosecuted. But then the next question is, okay, even if you can't prosecute him, so if there is a problem and then the special prosecutor thinks that he wants to hear from the ex-president, shouldn't he? So in Article 57, Clause 6, so let me read it a bit. It says, civil or criminal proceedings may be instituted against a person within 3 years after ceasing to be president in respect of anything done or omitted to be done by him in his personal capacity before or during his term of office, blah, blah, blah. You say, yeah, so you see it like that. You know, our Constitution, there are large parts of it that have not been tested. You see it, you see. You may read the words, but they carry a deeper meaning than they are. That's what I'm saying. This matter that's going on is very complex. I think ultimately they should go to the Supreme Court. Let's see, because the Supreme Court is the master of the Constitution. They have jurisdiction to determine what it is. Because you see that, on the one hand, the Constitution itself calls for accountability, that persons whom we've entrusted public office, okay, or whom we've ushered into public office should be held accountable, all right? Yes. And then on the other hand, there's also provision to make sure that somebody who has left office as a president is not unduly harassed and all that. So there's tension between the two angles. Accountability on one hand and avoiding harassment and witch hunt on the other. Because, you know, when the person is in office as president, he has so much power, and that's where our constitution has a big problem.
Okay.
It usually gives the president has too much powers, too much. You see, so he's able to exercise so many powers. So there is, if we were not careful, the framers, I'm sure, were careful to make sure that once the person leaves office, people don't get opportunity to pay him back, and that's why there is a cutoff. But I think where we are headed for, accountability is a very strong value. We can't develop if we can't hold our public officers accountable. No. So I think that this call or this point should be settled in the Supreme Court so that we find out. Because you see, Bobo said prosecution. See, this one is saying that don't institute the action.
Okay.
Now, when Amidi invites him, that's for investigations. Investigations would not always lead to prosecution. So there is something to be said for it. Then you come to Honorable Law and Co, who would say, look, to what end? After investigations, you cannot prosecute him. So to what end? Don't waste state resources on investigations. But I'm sure both of them would agree that when you conduct investigations and you find certain facts, often we can learn. We can learn. So there is value in investigations. We can learn, even if we cannot prosecute. You see? So to that extent, I think that they can settle, because if you go by Honorable Low's interpretation, once you cannot prosecute, it follows that you cannot do any investigations. You go by Bobo's, that school of thought, okay, people who subscribe to Bobo's own, investigation is separate. We can investigate and learn from it and leave it as it is, okay, without necessarily going into prosecution. So in that case, let's see what the Supreme Court will say on that matter. It will help our democracy.
I know you want to talk about the report itself. I don't have much time.
Yes. You see,
briefly.
Look, and let me just issue a quick caveat. I mean, the special prosecutor has extensive experience in law practice. I mean, way over and above what it is that we have. And so I respect him a lot, particularly when it comes to practice of law. I saw him in practice, you know, when he ceased to be Deputy Attorney General after the Rawlings years, until his appointment again by Professor Mills in 2009, I believe. And so I have enormous respect for him. But I think that some of the conclusions that he arrived at in the report relative to the Ejapa transaction were, to be charitable, flawed. Because if you suggest that the fact that Imara is an international company, and so consistent with the provisions Article 1815, the mandate agreement should have gone to Parliament for approval. Question is, how does the decision in Attorney General versus Balkan, which then says that only major international agreements ought to be subject to parliamentary approval, comes in? Then again, Ghana has engaged international firms for all our Euro bonds that we've issued in the past, none of which went to Parliament for approval. We've engaged international lawyers to assist us with ITLOS, for instance. It did not come to Parliament for approval. So how then do you suggest that Imara should have come to Parliament for approval? So if it's indeed established that it is not in the nature of the contract that requires parliamentary approval, then clearly your conclusions that you draw that the transaction, by reason of it not having gone to Parliament, is unconstitutional and accordingly null and void, falls flat. Capacity of the Deputy Minister of State to execute contracts on behalf of the Republic of Ghana, clearly Article 57 provides for the appointment of deputy ministers to assist the minister in the performance of his functions. The State Contracts Act provides for delegation by Minister of State. The Public Financial Management Act does indeed provide for delegation of powers by the Minister of State to persons not below the designation of director at the Ministry of Finance to execute contracts for and behalf of the minister. So if it's indeed established that the Deputy Minister of State had capacity, which the law appropriately clothes him with, because otherwise there was the use of the Deputy Minister in office if he cannot assist the minister in the performance of his functions. So if it's established that indeed the Deputy Minister had locus to execute the contract, then your conclusions that you draw therefrom is flawed. Again, he makes mention of the Public Procurement Act having been breached because the request for proposal was not approved by the Public Procurement Authority. That argument is problematic because, you see, if you look in the Procurement Act, the default is a competitive tender. However, if you have reason to do a restricted tender or a sole sourcing procurement, then you go for approval to engage that process. So if the Public Procurement Authority then approves the process of procurement for you, either restricted or so, then you develop your tender or request for proposal documents, issue it out to your tenderers for them to respond. So to suggest that data bank or the RFP was not approved by the public procurement is problematic because it is not the job of the Public Procurement Authority to approve of tenders that entities intend to adopt or the documents. It is only the process that they approve. And so if you look at the totality of all this, based on which the special prosecutor then goes ahead to make definitive pronouncements, clearly, it's a huge problem. As I was surprised, particularly when my friends in civil society organization then say in one breath that regardless of the fact that you yourself have not conducted an investigation and that we are asking you to proceed to conduct an investigation and if need be prosecute, which I agree, you say the transaction should be abrogated. Based on what? Based on an admission that you yourself make that an investigation has not been conducted.
He says steps should be taken to investigate.
Yes, I agree with that. No problem at all, because you see.
So after that investigation, that's when they are calling for prosecution.
In the first instance, the transaction should be abrogated. And I'm saying that what is the basis?
Honorable Minister, there are two issues here really. I mean, not to discount the work of the special prosecutor, but like I said, most of the things he arrived at on the basis of conflict of interest and all of that, I think we already are in agreement that that actually happened.
No, frankly, yes. I disagree that there was conflict of interest.
Which you've made known. Yes, Franklin states the position.
I do not ascribe the issues of nepotism and all of that because I think those are stronger terminologies. But that's what the special prosecutor wanted to say, and I said that for that one we agree because there was conflict of interest. But when we were saying that the agreement should be abrogated and taking a second look taken, we were more on the basis of the valuation. In fact, and I think I mentioned that for us the valuation has always been a problem because we think that there could have been more consultations, and it was abundantly clear, and I've said it openly, that when we engaged the finance minister and my good friend Charles, they were short in coming out with proper answers as to why the valuation was put at that, was pegged at 1 billion. And so I characteristically even said to the finance minister that, look, we think 50% of the answers have been gotten, but 50% more needs to be received. And those were in the realms of valuation. which I think were the issue. So it's not necessarily the case that civil society were saying the agreement should be abrogated solely on the basis of the special prosecutors' affirmation of conflict of interest. No.
All right. Does that
very well?
settle it for you?
It clears it because I mean, if I read their statement, then I was completely taken aback. And indeed, I think that mischief that they seek to cure.
Which mischief?
Which is that the issue of valuation needs to be looked at. I think that the minister and his deputy provided ample explanation as to the process. Because frankly, you recall, we've engaged on several occasions, and I admit that to the extent that this asset is Ghana's, we all want better value. It's not in doubt.
Okay.
Because if government itself did not want better value for our royalties, the initiation of this idea and its execution itself would not have been arrived at. So fundamentally, we are in agreement that better value for Ghana is what we ought to strive to obtain. And I agree with civil society when they raise questions about the 1 billion valuation, which the ministry then explained that, look, this is just the book, the transaction, the book value that we put at incorporation, and that the book building approach. And to be honest, I'm not a finance person, so I do not understand very well what it is that the book building process would achieve at the point of the IPO. But
actually, I'm not.
Yes, please.
The explanation from the ministry was that, well, we'll be receiving dividends in addition to the 1 billion figure, and we countered and said, given what exists within the domain of these type of transactions, your dividends are typically less than 10% or a maximum of 10%, which will come to about $10 million or so a year for a defined period. And we argue that if you let everything stay the way it is, you are likely to receive close to $200 million every year anyway. So why shoot yourself down by collecting 1 billion ahead and 10 million for the next 10 or 15 years when you could have made much more? And the other argument we made was that there was a living example in the case of the golden share we handed over to the shareholders in Ashanti. We were receiving $150 million a year out of Ashanti until we decided to let go the golden share. And today we get only $50 million. So we brought a number of circumstances to show that let's negotiate the value better so that we can get, all we got was a 3-year series analysis. And you know, I keep saying that I'm not an astute financial mathematician, but in my land economics studies, I took courses in financial mathematics. And when you are doing net present values for assets like this, you don't do just 3 years. You do have a maximum of the 10 period that you know. And if the Attorney General has suggested that you should now do 15 years at least, you don't show us 3 years, you show us 15 years.
Okay. All right. I think we should make progress now. Honorable Mesa.
Very well. I mean, on the valuation question, I don't have a problem with, because I have always insisted that the contribution of civil society is important in nation building.
Okay.
But I was at the finance committee when the documentation was submitted. And indeed, the question was asked as regards the issue that has been raised. And the explanation that Charles provided was that the book building approach that they're going to adopt will determine the final value at the IPO date. But government wants to raise 500 million. So they're going to sell the shares up to the percentage that will give us the 500 million.
Okay.
And so if the valuation at IPO then came to 3 billion and we're looking for 500 million, what it then meant was that we're going to sell only up to 20% of the equity and not 49.
Okay.
I thought
which the committee was satisfied with that. Okay.
Okay, and so to that extent, I'm glad that he says that, you know, it's only in relation to the transaction value that they think that some breaks ought to be put on there. Okay. And clearly, His Excellency the President's directive to the Finance Minister, I think, would cure that.
Okay. All right. From a citizen in Namasaman, the Special Prosecutor's response to John Mahama makes me laugh. Where does that leave his initial comments that says John Mahama insured himself. That's why he was not invited. Why asking him to come with 2 lawyers and stuff by this time? I'm sorry. Kwesi in Kaswa, does it mean the board chair is ignorant of his duties and responsibilities? His audit report is a fabrication. Okay. All right. We are now going to touch on the issue of the former MP. Right now, he's a former MP, I suppose. The Honorable Andrew Amakwe-Siama. Just a week ago, the Speaker gave a ruling. You remember he decided to contest as an independent candidate in this year's parliamentary elections. And so the party wrote to Parliament to take action on it. On Saturday, we had the ruling by the Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay. I'm going to take a break. When we return, I'll hear from my guests on this issue.
Looking for something new this November? Looking for star-studded suspense?
It's what rich, entitled people do when threatened. They conceal the ugly truths to protect themselves.
Maybe you're in search of true love.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I got a crush on you, baby, would you be my boo?
What about a bit of family drama? Need something to keep the kids entertained?
We're ready to help with the case, Mira. We'll look for clues.
Perhaps criminally good comedy is your thing. Whatever you're in the mood for, look no further than DSTV.
2 weeks ago, I had nowhere to turn to. I needed funds urgently. That's when I ran into Wafakofi. It's you, Wafakofi.
Hello.
It's good I saw you here.
Really?
You know, with businesses restarting after the lockdown, getting funds has been really difficult to pay for some of the goods in high demand, and my supply is no longer selling on credit.
Sister Ama, my financial partner is Advanced Savings and Loans. Advanced stayed by my side all through the COVID crisis. They offered me grace period. They also gave me advice on how to manage my business, and now they are here to help me clear my containers by offering me a loan.
Are you sure they are giving out loans even during the COVID pandemic?
Yes, Advanced Ghana has you covered.
So that's how I got a loan to stock up my shop.
Call us on 0800 355 355 or visit our nearest branch for our various loan and deposit products. Advance, your preferred financial partner.
We're grateful you stayed with us here on The Big Issue on 97.3 City FM and City TV. We are now going to talk about the issue of the former MP. Honorable Judge Lowe, the Speaker's ruling come to you as a surprise?
Well, no, it didn't. It didn't because I was expecting that there would be a ruling anyway. And I would have thought that for political expediency, they could have just been mute about it and go into the elections, since the election is a few days away. But, well, I don't know. They might have a reason why the Speaker still went ahead to discuss the issue before Parliament and give a ruling. But I knew that it was been tabled and they could have deferred it. The Speaker could have glossed over it. He has all the powers to decide.
Did you expect him to rule in that favor, to declare his seat vacant?
There was from my reading of the law, I think that in a way you can say that the Speaker was right. Let me just assist the process a bit. This is the Parliament Act,
okay,
1965, and it talks about expulsion of a member. I hope that is not that.
Okay.
But Article 97.
Yes, but it talks about
the fact that when the general secretary of a party writes to say that you cease to be a member of the party, but then if you came on the ticket of a political party, then your seat can be declared.
Okay.
And so that is what I think the MPP followed, and that is what informed the speaker's ruling from my my reading. I would look for the relevant portion.
Find it, Honorable Mensah.
Well, slight correction. I made reference to Article 57. It's rather 79 in my earlier submission regarding the appointment of Deputy Minister.
Okay.
Andrew is my friend. And so it's really difficult for me speaking about his issue. Because he is a member of my caucus. We've been first-time MPs. He's a lawyer as well, and so to that extent I have my own prejudices about the matter. But like George said, of course I've heard some others argue that to the extent that he's seeking to enter the next parliament and not necessarily
changing his side
during this
parliament,
then the ruling of the speaker is inappropriate. So, question is, assuming the NPP had held its primaries the same time as the NDC did in August of 2019, and he had elected to, if you like, go independent 1 year or so before the election, or had expressed the desire to contest. Of course, I know that the filing of nominations usually is only a few months to the election, so really my analogy may not be entirely right. But be that as it may, I guess that the constitutional provision is clear that when you leave the party on whose ticket you entered parliament, and 97(1)(g, for the benefit of our viewers, if I may.
Okay. If you readily find it.
Oh, of course. It says that a member of parliament shall vacate his seat in parliament if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to parliament to join another party, or seeks to remain in parliament as an independent member. Now, he demonstrated clearly his intent to file as an independent member, and that obviously infringes the party's rules. And so some disciplinary process was initiated by the party, following which he was expelled. And so if he's been expelled from the party, then he cannot hold himself out as a new patriotic member of parliament for his constituency. And so it was pursuant to that that the General Secretary wrote to the Speaker to effect this sanction and declare his seat vacant because he's no longer a member of the New Patriotic Party. So, to that extent,
if I may read,
I guess that
Act 300, Parliament Act.
Okay.
It says 2, tenure of membership. Every member shall cease to be a member on the dissolution of the assembly. A member shall cease to be a member if on an event occurs whereby he becomes a person such as is mentioned in the table contained in section 1, or the speaker receives notice signed by him whereby he resigns his seat, or he is expelled from the assembly under Article 37 of this act, or D, the speaker receives a notice signed by a majority of registered electors in the electoral district in which said member was elected, and he no longer enjoys the confidence and support of the electorate in that district, provided that in the case of a member who is a member of the party, the notice is received by the speaker through the general secretary of the party.
Okay.
C, the speaker receives a notice signed by the general secretary of the party that the member who was elected to the National Assembly as a member of the party has ceased to be a member of the party.
Okay.
Or F, the speaker receives a notice by the general secretary of the party that the member who was elected as a member of the party no longer enjoys the confidence and support of the party. Or in the course of proceedings of the assembly, he publicly declared his intention to systematically refraining from attending the proceedings of the assembly and the speaker or other person presiding confirms that the member made the declaration to his hearing. Okay. So you see, I'm coming at this because
the Parliament Act.
By this act, MPs should be very, very, very careful. That is what the signal is sent. That if Bobo and I are talking on the floor, and he says that for this Parliament, I won't come here again. I'm fed up with what you people are doing, and the speaker hears it. You stand the risk of being expelled. That is what it means. And also, people must be mindful now. Maybe a lot of electorates don't realize that you can actually take your MP out of Parliament before 4 years by a petition going around,
like a vote of no confidence.
Like a vote of no, and also the party can put them. So I got scared when I through my research I came again. I said, oh, so all these things that we are taking lightly, if really parties want to be harsh and hard on members of Parliament, these are the ways to go. One way I like it, but the other way is that, you see, when it happens like that, our democracy will not grow. So maybe we should look at these things again.
Because tested against the Constitution.
This is why the whip system works. And that is why you have the likes of a Japa. Because with this, members are afraid not to toe the party line.
But what do you mean by the likes of a Japa?
You see, so
you guys are playing mischief. That's what it is.
When a three line,
I thought that a Japa was mentioning your name.
No, he's talking about the Japa royalties.
I'm talking about Japa royalties. Where the three-line clip comes in, and you know that your party can just write and say we no longer have confidence in you, and you will leave Parliament. Then they are forced.
Members of your party were clear in their opposition to the transaction.
You understand?
4 months to election.
I'm saying that
you guys are going to raise 500 million. Who agreed? That's all.
We need to look at these things carefully because it doesn't give parliamentarians a free hand to represent their. That's a fact.
Okay.
That's what it is. But that's politics. That's what you play.
Because Japan was bad. But civil society says it's bad. Now,
so we're talking about the Formula MP right now. How did we get here?
Civil society,
people like the Formula MP cannot be. The party has realized that they cannot control them anymore because of the stand they are taking. That is why they are saying they should be out. So I'm saying that it gives too much power to the party to control you, even when you are in Parliament, and therefore we should take a look at it. I'm sure Martin agrees.
Please, let's hear from you. Now that he has been expelled from Parliament, what does it mean?
Yeah, so it means, okay, the first number one implication is his ex gratia, his gratuity. Yeah, so he's worked up to the 11th month. Yeah, so he will lose from now till the time Parliament is officially dissolved. You see, so you lose a bit. But it's okay that the speaker did it. To be candid, I had earlier given interviews on it that the speaker hadn't acted swiftly enough. I think it's as clear as it is. Once he's left his party by his conduct, going independent, he was supposed to have been expelled long. The speaker
long ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
This one, there's no controversy about it.
Do you agree that's it's...
Yes, entirely. I've also shared views on this matter. I mean, we belong to an association, that group. We need to abide by the rules and the morals of it. And it takes me back to the rather, I like to cite a very communist manifesto, which brings light to the point about democratic centralism. You know, you must engage in all processes, at policy levels, including elections, but the ultimate decision taken by the authority of the organization or the party would hold in this instance. And I think he breached those rules. And I'm sorry, but he should try his luck. He may possibly win.
So what if he wins a seat?
He comes back as an independent.
Then he comes back to Parliament and decides on which part he should
on which side he will sit.
It will be a very good, should I say, case study to look into, really. But I'm sure he will definitely not be happy siding with the majority or the minority, whoever wins the electoral votes, actually.
He has spoken and he says that he will be challenging this decision at the courts after the elections. Mr. Pebu, how will this play out?
Yes, so that's due process. Let him go so that at the end of the day we'll get judicial pronouncement, because it's provided in the Article 98, the next article, that High Court has jurisdiction to determine. So if the Speaker gives his ruling that, look, this seat is vacated, and you are not happy, yes, whilst you are out there, sure, you can go to court. The only thing that initially some of the public opinions on the people were mixing up was that because it's provided in 98 that he may go to court, people thought that then he has to keep his seat and go to court. Then at the end of the court, what do you call it, case, if he loses before he leaves Parliament.
So he should have gone to court before the Speaker's declaration?
99. Yes, so sorry, that's Article 99, which is wrong. Let me read. No, the point is that some are saying because of 99. 99 says that if you are not happy with the decision of the Speaker, you can go to court, okay? And some are saying because you don't find Speakers stated expressly there, they're saying that no, in that case, go to court for a determination. That's, in other words, the Speaker has no mandate to say the seat is vacant, which is wrong, you see? So others are saying that the Speaker cannot rule that the seat is being vacated. Well, that is wrong. Even, you know, this is not the first time. 2000 and earlier, Kufuor's administration, you know, Dr. Wayoseni, yeah, he crossed carpet, okay, he resigned from the NDC, and the Speaker declared the seat vacant. There was a by-election. So look at the 99. Let's read for viewers. It says, Article 99, the High Court shall have jurisdiction to hear and determine any question whether A person has been validly elected as a member of Parliament, or the seat of a member has become vacant. You see? Or the seat of a member has become vacant. So people were misinterpreting this to mean that if we say you've left, you've not left, rather go to court first. But you know how court proceedings take long. So if he's in court for 10 years, it means he keeps the seat. No. The Speaker has the mandate, like from Honorable Low's reading of the Parliamentary Act. Even without it, in the Constitution it says 97, the Speaker will declare the seat vacant. The person leaves. But of course, you can always go to court and challenge. So maybe at best, what you could have done at that time was that once the Speaker has declared it vacant, if you disagree, you go to court and seek an injunction.
Okay.
You seek an injunction, so then the court will look at it. So if the court thinks the Speaker they will issue an injunction. But in the absence of that, you cannot just say that the Speaker, his hands are tied behind him and that the member can keep the seat. No.
What precedent is this going to set? Because as you mentioned in why you're saying this incident, he crossed carpet. But this one says, I want to come to the next Parliament as an independent candidate, not joining any political party.
He starts, he goes by you have to, you see, frankly, everybody across the table have said, you belong to an association. The Constitution knows that you belong to an association. You can't flout the rules. You can't be a law unto yourself. No. You will lose membership of it. So if you lose membership of it, that's it. You lose your seat as well.
In actual fact, there are rules. In actual fact, you sign on to be there for 4 years. So there's even certainty of contract. You've signed on that I'm going on the ticket of this party for the next 4 years, of which I'm a member of Parliament.
Okay.
So clearly, once midway or somewhere you say, look, I'm no longer interested, or you've done something and the party says, we no longer recognize you as one of us, then you cannot represent us. You cannot be Security Council member of the UN, and when your country is blacklisted, then you still go and stand there and be talking on their behalf. It doesn't happen. And to add to what Martin said, when in the event of death or anything, the Speaker declares the seat vacant. And don't forget the election is within 21 days after that. So if we went to the court, when would they finish? So clearly the Speaker can give his ruling. If you don't like it, go to court.
All right. We are ending the show, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. Honorable Andrew Ejapa Mensah as the MP for Second D, going again, campaigning. We wish you well.
Hopefully see you on the 8th of January.
I will not vote for him. He's not giving us he's not giving us a safe seat.
Oh, well. So it's a safe seat.
Besides, I've done some work. So I'm sure that I will come back.
Okay.
I'm coming there to campaign against you.
Oh.
Are you sure you can?
You know he's my brother.
But he went on the boost.
During the primaries, yes.
So we'll see how the general election goes.
Sure.
And he takes that advice. That's Franklin Kujo, president of Imani Africa. Honorable George Low, former MP for North Dai, was also here, as well as Martin Pibwe, private legal practitioner.
He's the regional secretary of voter
Yes, in the NDC, vice chairman. Yes. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. On behalf of the team, thank you so much for watching to the big issue on City TV and for listening on radio as well. Goodbye.